Chapter 1. Wow! That is a rainbow-like fog. See Circle Calendar 1520. The first half of the Grand Line, Lolagia Island. A colorful fog covered the sea ahead. No doubt about it, that is the colorful mist that I have been waiting for 50 years. Going merry above. A short old man with white hair and beard was full of excitement. The Straw Hat Pirates couldn't help but stare at the dreamy colorful mist with wide eyes, full of surprise. Is this the legendary colorful mist? Do you really want to go in? Watching the pirates' ship getting closer and closer to the colorful fog. A young man with a long nose couldn't help but feel like giving up, full of worry. Didn't they say that all the adventurers who went in, disappeared, and no one came back alive? The elderly scientist Henzo said solemnly, I have been doing research until now just for this day. You're not scared anymore, are you? A beautiful figure with a dark complexion and a curvaceous figure, with a smile in her eyes, asked with a smile. Who's scared? Usopp, the sniper of the Straw Hat Pirates, was sweating. But fearing that his companions would laugh at him, he still gritted his teeth, gave a thumbs up, held his head high and said loudly, I am Captain Usopp of the Grand Line. That is too dangerous. Let's not go in, right? A pretty orange-haired girl, wearing a floral t-shirt and denim shorts, looked youthful and lively, but was obviously a little timid. Her face turned pale, and she spoke weakly with her hand raised with trepidation. This colorful fog is so dangerous. She didn't want to not be able to come back like this. Miss Navigator, I heard there might be countless treasures inside. Robin turned around. Looking at the navigator of the Straw Hat Pirates, he smiled and said, You know, Mayor Witten invested money to support Dr. Henzo's research on the colorful mist just for this reason. Treasure. Hearing this, Nami's eyes lit up immediately. All of a sudden, I became excited. Holding on to the railing tightly, he stared at the colorful fog ahead with burning eyes and said loudly, Usopp is right. As pirates, how can we retreat so easily? Nami, do you support going in too? Woohoo! Tony Chopper, the ship's doctor for the Straw Hat Pirates and one of the cowardly trio, was crying and trembling there. Ms. Nami, Robin-chan, please don't worry. A young man with curly blonde hair was dancing with joy, spinning around, and vowed, I will protect you. Haha, then I'll leave it to you, Mr. Chef. Robin smiled. Although she has just joined the Straw Hat crew, she is not yet trusted by all members due to her status as the former vice president of Baroque Works. But he has almost figured out the personality and temperament of every member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Although the chef of the Straw Hat Pirates is a bit lascivious on weekdays, he is generally chivalrous, not vulgar, and not disgusting. It is still very reliable at critical moments. Yes, this made the chef of the Straw Hat Pirates' eyes bulge with anger. My heart beat faster and I was completely mesmerized. Be carried away. At this time, as Going Merry officially entered the colorful fog, the young monkey D. Luffy, who was sitting on the sheep head sculpture on the bow of the Merry, held down his straw hat and grinned. We rushed into the colorful mist. Interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. Looking at the pitch-black fog all around, the young man with green algae hair and 3 knives on his waist remained alert and couldn't help but smile. Swish, swish. Soon the dazzling light keeps shining. Everyone felt as if they had traveled through time and space. Going Merry passed through the dreamlike passage and came to a strange sea. Everywhere, there were dilapidated ships full of traces of time, and even a large number of shipwrecks floating on the sea. The group of people couldn't help but widen their eyes. Robin looked around, full of surprise. Doctor, where is this? EPS Concert. Dr. Henzo took a deep breath and tried to keep himself calm. When he was young, pirates suddenly attacked Lolagia Island, and his childhood friend mistakenly entered the colorful fog and never came out again. Over the past 50 years, he has been dedicated to the research of the colorful fog, in order to rescue his childhood companions from this special sea area. What could it be? Robin's eyes narrowed and his expression changed. What is that? Nami, Chopper, Usopp and others on the side all had a bad feeling and asked hurriedly. The graveyard of ships that never return. Robin's face was solemn as he responded directly. She once read an anonymous adventure book. The place called EPS Concert was mentioned above. What? It's great to hear this well-informed and knowledgeable archaeologist say this. Not to mention the timid trio of the Straw Hat Pirates, even Zoro and Sanji were shocked. But their captain, Straw Hat Luffy, was shocked, and looked around with shining eyes, full of excitement. Great! And at this moment, going merry ahead. The fog is shrouded in the dark depths of the sea. On a dilapidated pirate ship floating on the sea. It looks like there are some interesting guys here. A tall, handsome young man with black hair raised his eyebrows. He was holding a grilled fish and sitting casually on the guardrail, and finished it in just 3 or 5 bites. Next to him, a giant panda with black and white fur all over its body and a body length of no less than 4 or 5 meters was sitting there carelessly. He also grabbed a piece of barbecue and kept chewing on it. Woo Woo responded. P.S. The new book is now available, don't miss it if you pass by, please collect it, comment and support it. The author has a lot of quality assurance, and there are no disappointments or depression. You can collect and read it with confidence. Chapter 2. Straw Hat Crew. In the dark sea. On the pirate's ship that had already decayed. The tall young man, with his partner, the giant panda Beilong, stood leisurely on the bow. He had a head of shaggy black hair, wore sunglasses, brown trousers and a blue vest, and a grey-white jacket tied directly around his waist, revealing his perfectly proportioned muscular body. There is also a colorful Madara peacock necklace hanging around her neck, which shines with metallic luster and is extremely exquisite and fashionable. The lifelike peacock pendant appears to be about the size of an average person's fist, which is just the right size for the artist's 3-meter-tall body. Devil's Son Nico Robin. Shakya looked out at the misty sea in the distance. But the powerful observation haki had already locked onto those suddenly appearing auras in an instant. One voice after another kept flowing into my mind, and I was able to directly determine the identity of the person who came. In this special space and time, the flow of time is indeed different from that in the outside world. Has 50 years already passed? Deep in the dark mist. Shakya looked somewhat helpless, muttering, before I knew it, even Oravia's daughter has grown up this big. Nobody knows. He is a time traveler. Moreover, he was once the heir to the throne of the Kingdom of Flowers. He was born with the ability to listen to other people's thoughts. At the age of 5, he accidentally gained the abilities of the human fruit, the mythical beast species, and the great Buddha form. He has been gifted since childhood with amazing comprehension. At the age of 10, he naturally awakened Conqueror's Haki. At the age of 15, he had already become the grandmaster of various boxing and kicking techniques and qigong passed down from generation to generation by the Navy of the Flower Kingdom, such as the Afterimage Fist, Shadowless Kick, and 8-Charge Fist, and he has mastered Conqueror's Haki more proficiently. With his persistent training, Observation Haki is even able to directly read other people's memories. But few people know that with his photographic memory, Buddha-like wisdom and understanding, he also became a scientist out of interest. He also secretly developed a series of new weapons for the Flower Kingdom, which gave the Flower Kingdom an advantage in the war with enemy countries and was respected and admired by countless citizens. But when the world nobles, representing the world government, visited the major member states of West Blue, a tragedy occurred because the brutal and tyrannical celestial dragons wantonly robbed women in the Kingdom of Flowers. Shakya was so angry that he could not turn a blind eye and was about to attack celestial dragons directly. However, he was stopped by Huo Shan, the 10th second-generation pillar of Urbao Navy, and Cone Green Pepper, the 10th second-generation pillar of Babao Navy. In order to avoid angering the world government, the king of the Flower Kingdom announced the abolition of his status as heir to the throne and ordered him to become a monk. Of course, in reality the cheap Laozi didn't really want to give up on him. His original intention was just to maneuver around him and at the same time temper the impetuous and intolerant character of his son, who he had high hopes for but was too young and energetic. But looking at the whole country, they are servile to celestial dragons and fear them like a tiger. There were even many people who blamed him for almost bringing disaster to the Flower Kingdom. Although it was understandable, Shakya still couldn't help feeling disappointed. He was disheartened. Instead, he let go of his obsession with power. He devoted himself to pushing himself and training himself, and his strength improved by leaps and bounds in just 2 years. Later, he gave up his royal status and severed ties with the Kingdom of Flowers. As a monk who had violated the precepts of not eating and drinking meat and was expelled from Dalan Temple, he used the alias Shakya and travelled on the sea with his pet and partner, the giant panda Beilong, who had accompanied him since childhood. East, west, south, north, and south, the first half of the Grand Line, New World. His footprints can be found in every sea area. In just a few years, the names of the monk who broke his vows and Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva spread throughout the Grand Line. Whether it is the marine or the pirates, they all turn pale with fear at the mention of it. I also accidentally encountered the Queen of Amazon Lilies, Flame Flower, and stayed on Daughter Island for a few months. Because he received news from Sky Island Birka, who was once conquered by him, that the legendary Logia Thunder Fruit was found, he left Amazon Lily and went to Sky Island to bring the Thunder Fruit back. Unexpectedly, when passing by Logia Island on the way back, he happened to encounter the legendary colorful fog. So he prepared to collect the huge amount of treasure accumulated over the long years and give it to Amazon Lily as a betrothal gift to marry the Queen of Nine Snakes. I want to look for it more carefully. See if there is any devil fruit in it. Unexpectedly, because he had killed a celestial dragon, he was chased by the leader of the Knights of God and CP0, and a fight broke out between them. Although relying on his extraordinary strength and tenacious will, after 3 days and 3 nights of bloody fighting, he finally turned defeat into victory and successfully eliminated these guys. But because he missed the time to come out, he was unfortunately trapped in the colorful fog. The speed of time and space in this strange other world is much lower than that in the outside world, almost equivalent to being still. Even if 50 years had passed in the outside world, he and the giant panda Beilong had only been trapped here for a short year. Woo woo. On the bow, I saw Shakya looked a little melancholy. The giant panda Beilong standing nearby tilted his head, looking puzzled. I don't understand why the owner is so depressed all of a sudden. Ziobai, have you forgotten? I told you a long time ago. Shakya patted the 2 giant pandas and explained helplessly, this space is different from the outside world. We are only trapped here for about a year, but in fact, 50 years have passed in the outside world. Of course, he was not completely ignorant of the colorful fog. Shakya had been mentally prepared when he was trapped here. But when the Straw Hat crew actually showed up, he was happy, disappointed, nervous, and uneasy. So many years have passed, and Flame Flower still has her daughter whom she has never met, as well as her other confidants. How are they doing? The only thing that made him feel a little relieved was that he had already obtained the ability of the Bat Fruit, the mythical beast, and the vampire form, and gave it to Flame Flower, the 9-snake queen. Even the ability of the mythical beast vampire form may not really allow people to achieve immortality. I believe it is enough to keep them young forever. Woo woo. Giant Panda Beilong opened his mouth wide. He scratched his head, feeling confused and not knowing how to comfort his master. Let's not talk about this anymore. Shakya took a deep breath. Suppress your heavy mood and put those messy emotions behind you. He patted the silly and cute giant panda beside him and smiled, I have nothing to do, so I might as well play with these rookies. What do you think? Squeak. The giant panda Beilong tilted his head and blinked his big round eyes. This silly and cute little cat has cooperated with its owner countless times and they have already developed a perfect understanding of each other. I couldn't bear to throw away the barbecue, so I stuffed it into my mouth. He rolled around there, as if he agreed with this. Chapter 3. Soon. As Going Merry slowly goes deeper, proceed cautiously. The Straw Hat crew above was full of curiosity, looking around at the gloomy environment. But at the same time, keep your nerves tight and remain alert. Namo Shakya. Without any warning. A majestic voice echoed in this sea area, if greed is not eliminated, evil thoughts will not stop, and if troubles are not reduced, suffering will arise. Why are there always greedy people who dare to trespass into EPS Concert? What? All of a sudden, there was a sudden sound. The Straw Hat Pirates, who were slowly going deeper into Going Merry, and Dr. Henzo, were all horrified. They all looked in horror in the direction where the sound came from. However, the sea ahead was empty. There was nothing around except for scattered rotten ghost ships and shipwreckage floating on the sea. It was eerie, filled with deathly silence, and extremely strange. It's really creepy. No one. Is there really a ghost? Nami, Chopper, and Usopp. He was so frightened that his face turned pale. He immediately shrank behind other people, trembling with fear and tears streaming down his face. And Straw Hat Luffy, Zoro, Sanji and the others became alert. Buzz buzz inexplicable. The sound of Sanskrit is heard and the golden light is dazzling. Under the suddenly shrunken and somewhat shocked gaze of the Straw Hat crew. Woohoo! The clouds and mist are surging. A huge golden Buddha appeared there. Sitting cross-legged on the clouds, he crossed a distance of hundreds of meters, coming from far away. The treasure is solemn and majestic. It's shocking. Namo Paradise, the Tathagata of the West is here. Huge Buddha. Even bigger than going merry. He clasped his hands together, and his voice was like a loud bell, deafening and sacred. Sitting cross-legged on the clouds, high above, looking down at the Straw Hat crew. It is awe-inspiring and one cannot help but bow down in worship. Ah, ah! Buddha! Buddha! Hey, is this true? How is this possible? Does Buddha really exist in this world? Looking at the huge, majestic golden Buddha sitting cross-legged in the vast clouds. Luffy, Nami, Zoro, Robin, everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates, including Dr. Henzo, were all shocked, their mouths opened wide, unable to speak. Everyone broke out in cold sweat, frightened by the invisible pressure, and their bodies trembled involuntarily. His face was full of disbelief. You sinful and greedy pirates have committed countless crimes under the banner of freedom and adventure. The golden Buddha has a solemn appearance and his hands are clasped together. With a cold, majestic, and sharp gaze, he looked down at the Straw Hat crew on going merry. It's so frightening that I dare not look at it. His tone was dignified and unyielding, and he spoke indifferently. Why don't you wake up quickly in front of the Buddha, recognize your sins, kill yourself with a knife, wash away your sins as soon as possible, and go to paradise. Thump. All of a sudden. Nami, Chopper, Usopp and the others just knelt there. Dr. Henzo sat slumped on the ground, staring blankly at the giant golden Buddha, staring at the majestic and familiar face. His eyes were somewhat doubtful. Buddha, spare my life. We may be pirates and a bit greedy, but we have never done anything evil on our own initiative. Yes, yes. I am still a doctor. I often treat patients and do good deeds. The timid trio of Straw Hat crew were so frightened that they burst into tears. He kept bowing his head there. Kowtow and beg for mercy. Nami, Chopper, Usopp. Seeing this, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji and the others couldn't help but stare with their eyes widened. Although they were suddenly faced with such an unknown existence, they all had sweat on their foreheads and felt tremendous pressure. But unexpectedly, Nami and the others were so scared that they knelt there. Robin was also a little trembling, his eyes were a little uncertain. The big Buddha in front of me doesn't look fake. Usopp. Ah! Usopp froze. Even the people in the Straw Hat crew were somewhat shocked. No one expected that the big Buddha that suddenly appeared in front of them would actually call out Usopp's name directly. Could it be that the other person is really a Buddha? You are lazy by nature, timid and cowardly, and you are usually smooth-talking, sneaky, and full of lies. The golden Buddha has no expression on his face. He looked down at the trembling, sweaty Usopp and said coldly, "You will be sentenced to 10 years in the hell of tongue-pulling. Only then can you be reborn as a pig in the animal realm." What? Tongue-pulling hell? Hearing this, Usopp's eyes narrowed. Pale and trembling. I was so scared that I almost fainted. There he cried and begged for mercy. "No, I know I was wrong, I will never lie again, please forgive me, I don't want to go to the hell of tongue-pulling, I don't want to be reincarnated as a pig." Lord Buddha. No need to say more, just cut open your stomach and commit suicide. Ah! Usopp paled. He was so scared that his eyes rolled back and he fainted. Usopp, Luffy, Nami, Chopper, and others standing by were horrified. Little thief Nami. The golden Buddha has an expressionless face. He ignored Usopp who fainted from fright. Looking at the Straw Hat Pirate's navigator, the beautiful young girl with orange hair, the little thief Nami. Ah! It's my turn. Nami's face turned pale. My body couldn't help but tremble. I didn't expect it would be my turn so soon. You are greedy by nature. You went astray at a young age. You have been stealing and cheating people everywhere for years. Shakya, who was transformed into a giant Buddha, was extremely majestic. Your body and hair are from your parents, but you don't respect yourself. You use your beauty to seduce others and scheme to steal their property. You are not ashamed of it, but are complacent. You will be punished to go to the stone mill hell. After serving your sentence for 10 years, you can be reborn as a cat in the animal realm. Ah! Nami was so frightened that her face turned pale. He kowtowed and begged for mercy. No. Buddha. Although I am greedy for a little money, I never hurt anyone. The stolen treasures are mostly the ill-gotten gains looted by pirates. I pray that the Buddha will see through me. I have a keen eye. Stop wasting your time on sophistry. I will leave your body intact and you can kill yourself with the sword. Thump. The little thief cat's body went limp. Same with Usopp down there. Immediately afterwards, he fainted. But to be honest, the fainting was not natural enough. It's a bit fake. Look how smooth Usopp is in pretending. Just like the real thing. Chapter 4. Use going merry above. Unlike Shakya, who saw through Usopp and the little cat thief at a glance that they were pretending to be unconscious. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Robin and others standing by, saw Nami faint as well, and their faces turned pale. Luffy, in particular, clenched his fists angrily and glared at the big Buddha in front of him. UBD, what did you do to my companions? Luffy, stop messing around. Zoro and Sanji hurriedly grabbed him. Robin even used the ability of the flower fruit to cover Luffy's mouth immediately to prevent him from saying the wrong thing and angering the mysterious being in front of him. Because this unknown existence in front of him was so terrifying. Just appearing there makes people tremble and lose the desire to fight. I simply lost the courage to resist. Tony Chopper. The Golden Buddha looked directly at Chopper. He ignored Luffy's shouting, seemingly not caring about the offense. Good, good. Although you are a reindeer and as timid as a mouse, you have a kind heart and remember your duty as a doctor. You practice medicine and accumulate virtue. Although you have committed some sins of killing, your merits and demerits offset each other. Looking at the panicked and anxious Chopper, Shakya, who had transformed into a giant Buddha, said indifferently, you don't need to be punished. You can directly enter the reincarnation cycle after death and be reborn as a human being. Chopper was trembling. His eyes widened, surprised and happy. But when she thought of the fate of Nami and Usopp, she cried and begged, Buddha, please have mercy and spare Nami and Usopp. They are good people and never hurt others. Robin, Zoro, Sanji and the others were all shocked. Because, the Buddha in front of him actually said the names of Nami, Chopper, and Usopp in one breath. Moreover, I know their personalities and what they have done in the past very clearly. This is really mind-boggling. Straw Hat Boy Monkey D. Luffy, do you admit your guilt? The Golden Buddha ignored Chopper who was begging for mercy, and looked directly at Luffy. UBD, I don't want to listen to your nonsense. Luffy's eyes were determined. He rushed out gritting his teeth. Regardless, he punched hard. The rubberized arms continued to stretch, and the fists became afterimages. He madly fired at the majestic and inviolable Buddha in the sky, rubber machine gun. Luffy, stop messing around. Seeing Luffy being so reckless, Robin, Zoro, Sanji and others couldn't help but change color. Namo Shakya. The Golden Buddha had no expression on his face and chanted the Buddha's name. A huge Buddha's hand, shining with metallic luster, gently raised up, ignorant and stubborn. Bang! 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 Understatement. Blocked Luffy's violent attack. The fists were bounced away and blasted wildly in all directions. Boom! Boom! All around, there were ghost ships or shipwreckages that were directly blown to pieces. Just flick your finger lightly. The invisible energy broke through the air like lightning. Luffy was caught off guard and had no way to avoid it. He was hit directly in an instant and flew out like a cannonball. It crashed straight into the mast of the Mary. The huge mast creaked and shook violently. But due to Shakya the power was controlled. It was not directly broken. It hurts so much. It hurts so much. It hurts so much. Luffy fell there, rolling around in a panic. The pair of fists suddenly grew several times larger in the blink of an eye, and became extremely red and swollen. The burning pain made him scream in agony. Tears flowed uncontrollably. Luffy. Isn't he rubber? Why would a fist being bounced off cause such an injury? Zoro, Sanji, Robin and the others shouted. Luffy was crying in pain as his fist was swollen like a braised pig's trotter. Some of them can't believe it. I feel cold all over. Monkey D. Luffy. Surrounded by clouds and mist. The big Golden Buddha was sitting cross-legged there. He looked down at the Straw Hat Luffy who was rolling around there, with an inviolable dignity. You have committed serious sins and committed many murders. You are unforgivable. I will punish you to go to the oil pot hell for 50 years, and then to the knife and saw hell for another 50 years. Only then can you go to the animal realm and be reborn as a monkey. This guy. Robin was sweating profusely. Looking directly at the golden Buddha in front of him, he was somewhat doubtful, is it some special demon fruit power? The third generation Kaititsuo and the famous sword Snow Solitaire on Zoro's waist have already been unsheathed. Full of vigilance, on high alert, ready to wield the knife at any time. Sanji had also raised his right foot, poised and ready to attack at any time. Blackfoot Sanji. The majestic golden Buddha ignored the two men's vigilance. He just continued to look at the Straw Hat Pirate's chef, Blackfoot Sanji. Oh? Is it my turn? Lighted a cigarette. Sanji resisted the pressure and tried his best to stay calm. You claim to have the spirit of chivalry, but in fact you are lustful and vulgar. I will punish you to go to the Copper Pillar Hell and serve for 50 years before you can be reborn as an animal and a duck. I refuse. Sanji held a cigarette between his lips. He looked directly at the majestic Buddha and said loudly, I don't want to be a duck. Pirate's hunter Roronoa Zoro. The golden Buddha ignored Sanji. With a cold, majestic, and sharp gaze, he once again looked at Zoro, the swordsman of the Straw Hat Pirates, and said indifferently, You are a murderer by nature, and the killing karma you have committed is no less than that of the Straw Hat Boy. I will punish you to go to the Hell of Swords Mountain and serve for 50 years before you can enter the animal realm and be reborn as a shark. Put down your butcher knife and become a Buddha right now, just commit suicide by cutting your stomach. The sound is like a loud bell. Deafening. It makes people shudder. I was so frightened and anxious that I couldn't help but crawl on the ground. Sorry, I can't do that. A trace of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Zoro, who was feeling a little suffocated by the terrifying aura, looked stern. Resolutely, he tore off the green headscarf tied around his arm and tied it around his head. Holding the third generation Kaititsuo and the good sword Snow Solitaire, and biting the large sword Wado Ikimonji, he said firmly, My goal is to be the world's greatest swordsman. I can't die like this before realizing this ambition. Even if I fall into hell, I will crawl out of it and let my name resound through heaven. Mr. Swordsman. Robin was stunned. Looking at Zoro in surprise. Luffy, covered in dust, stood up again. For a moment, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji all stood there gritting their teeth, glaring at the golden Buddha. The Buddha's teachings are boundless. If you don't follow my guidance, you will end up dead. The golden Buddha. Suddenly, an astonishing murderous aura erupted. An extremely tall and huge body stood up. The terrifying pressure made the Straw Hat crew present tremble. Chopper, Dr. Henzo, and Nami who pretended to fainted all looked extremely pale. Trembling and uneasy. Full of anxiety. Chapter 5. A hole, who's afraid of you? Facing that terrifying and oppressive aura. Although Straw Hat Luffy was sweating profusely, he still did not give in. He gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and glared at the golden Buddha, You are playing tricks. Everyone, he is not a real Buddha. This should be the ability of Zoan. Human fruit. Mythical beast. Great Buddha form. His eyes were fixed on the huge and golden Buddha in front of him. Robin suppressed his inner panic and spoke loudly there. She had seen the Devil Fruit illustrated book before. The other party's image of a golden Buddha is too similar to the ability of the human fruit, mythical beast, and Buddha form recorded in the illustration. In other words, exactly the same. If he was the real Buddha, how could he say so much to them? They were even asked to commit suicide. What? Is it fake? Zoan Devil Fruit ability. Human fruit. Mythical beast species. Great Buddha form. Ah, you have the same human fruit as me. What is a mythical beast? Is there such an ability? For a while. It's not just Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and others. Even Nami and Usopp, who were pretending to faint, couldn't help but jump up, full of disbelief. Looking at the golden Buddha in front of you in disbelief, you can't help but bow down and worship it. In addition to common animals, there are also some rare ancient species and mythical beasts in the Zoan. Staring closely at the golden Buddha in front of him, Robin was full of vigilance, and briefly introduced, Zoan ancient species with special abilities can usually transform into rare ancient creatures such as pterosaurs, triceratops, saber-toothed tigers, etc. Mythical beasts are even rarer than logias. They only exist in legendary mythical characters or creatures, such as phoenix, vampires, nine-tails foxes, Buddhas, etc. In addition to possessing Zoan's basic abilities, they also possess additional abilities similar to Paramecia's abilities. Hiss after listening to Robin's introduction. All the Straw Hat guys couldn't help but gasp. Unexpectedly, among the most inconspicuous Zoan, there are such amazing abilities as ancient species and even mythical beast species. Humph, since you are so stubborn, then I, the Buddha, will grant your wish. The next moment, under the fierce gazes of Nami, Robin, Luffy, Zoro, and others, the murderous and terrifying Golden Buddha suddenly disappeared. He looked at the Straw Hat crew with a smile and chuckled, "Haha, congratulations, you passed." Looking at the Golden Buddha in front of him, his murderous aura suddenly disappeared. He was smiling now, without the aggressive aura from before. The Straw Hat crew, who were already quite nervous, could not help but look at each other in bewilderment. "Don't be nervous. It's too boring to be here, so I'm just joking with you." A huge Buddha, shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye, Shakya returned to human form and stood on top of the shrinking cloud, revealing a panda face. Looking at the Straw Hat people who were still frightened but vigilant and not daring to be careless, he smiled and said, "I am indeed not a real Buddha, but a user of the human fruit, mythical beast, and great Buddha form." Who? Really? How can this be a joke? Damn it, this guy is so annoying. Don't joke around in a place like this, okay? I'm almost scared to death by you. Looking at the tall, young, handsome figure in front of me, it was completely different from the majestic, inviolable, and murderous Golden Buddha before. Hanami, Chopper, Usopp and others collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. Even Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Robin and the others had already been soaked in cold sweat on their backs. Everyone couldn't help but glare fiercely at the mysterious man in front of them, baring their teeth and complaining. But Zoro, Sanji, Robin and others were skeptical and still did not dare to be careless. His eyes were fixed on the mysterious man in front of him. "Stay alert and vigilant. But it seems you have recognized me, Hanzo." Looking at Dr. Hanzo on the Mary, whose face was filled with horror and disbelief, Shakya folded his arms and spoke with a chuckle. Before entering the colorful fog, he had a brief exchange with this Dr. Hanzo, when the other party was just a little kid. Therefore, Shakya was not surprised that he recognized him directly. But, for him, only 1 year has passed since he entered the colorful fog. "Suddenly I saw Dr. Hanzo, who had suddenly aged by nearly 50 years and had white hair. It's a wonderful feeling." "Ah! It's really you, Mr. Shakya. On board the Mary." Hear Shakya say this, Dr. Hanzo's pupils shrank sharply and he broke out in a cold sweat. He took off his glasses again and again, wiped his eyes, and looked carefully at Shakya in front of him. His face was filled with shock and he cried out in disbelief, "How is this possible? Ale! Do you know him, Doctor?" Luffy, Nami, Robin, Usopp, and others. I was surprised to see Dr. Hanzo showing such an incredible look. For a moment, I was filled with surprise and curiosity, and asked hurriedly. 50 years ago, I saw him on Lolagia Island. Dr. Hanzo stared blankly at the figure in front of him, who had not changed at all from 50 years ago and was still as young and handsome. He couldn't believe it, and said in a deep voice, "At the beginning, when the colorful fog suddenly appeared, he suddenly ran in on a giant panda. He had deliberately left a cable connected to the outside, but unfortunately it was cut off by some mysterious people who suddenly appeared. They also chased in. Until the colorful fog disappeared, including my former companions, none of them appeared again." Speaking of this, he looked at Shakya, who looked only about 20 years old, too young, and was somewhat puzzled, "But why do you look the same as when you first broke in 50 years ago?" "What?" Hearing Hanzo say this, everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates couldn't help but be stunned. He gasped and looked in disbelief at the young, handsome, and mysterious Shakya in front of him. There has been no change in more than 20 years. Could it be that the other party is really immortal? Don't be so surprised, Hanzo. Shakya raised an eyebrow, looking at Dr. Hanzo with his grey hair and wrinkled face. He didn't mean to hide it, and said bluntly, "The flow of time here is different from that in the outside world. For the outside world, 50 years may have passed, but only 1 year has passed in this strange other world." "Wait, you said only a year has passed here?" Robin's eyes widened. He looked at Shakya in disbelief and cried out. "What?" Nami, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Usopp and others were also a little dazed. "It turns out to be like this." Dr. Hanzo was stunned and muttered in a daze. "Please collect, please give flowers, please vote, please support, Please give good comments. You can put forward any suggestions, the author will read them. Chapter 6. Brush. Woo. The Straw Hat crew and Dr. Henzo were all blurred. A young and tall figure suddenly appeared in front of them. It made their pupil shrink. I broke out in a cold sweat. Gurgle. So fast. So strong. At this moment, no matter whether it was Sanji or Zoro, the two main forces of the Straw Hat Pirates, or the carefree Captain Luffy, they all broke out in cold sweats. My body was stiff and I was shivering. They were completely unable to react as to how the other party moved. It felt as if he was not facing a human being, but an extremely terrifying humanoid beast. A bit scary. But you really look a lot like that girl from Oravia. Shakya ignored the others. Looking at Robin, who looked exactly like the little girl Oravia except for her hair color, but now more mature and beautiful, she smiled and said, "If I wasn't familiar with Oravia, I would have mistaken her for someone else." He did know Oravia. However, when he met her in O'Hara, Robin's mother was just a little girl of 5 or 6 years old. She was a genius girl who had an extraordinary memory and a photographic memory just like Robin. Shakya once considered whether to cultivate it. As a result, before he could take any action, he was trapped in the colorful fog for 50 years. What? Robin was shocked. Oravia, how long has it been since she heard this name? I looked at the figure in front of me in disbelief. Did he know my mother? Do you know my mother, Nico Oravia? I am her daughter, Nico Robin. She frowned. She looked at the man in front of her with some doubt. She did not feel any hostility towards the other person approaching her. Instead, she felt surprisingly safe and peaceful, and inexplicably had a sense of intimacy. This feeling is wonderful. Brush. Shakya did not respond. A big hand suddenly reached out. He pressed gently on Robin's head. It made her completely stunned. Did so many things happen? Shakya closed his eyes. With his natural ability and his unremitting training, his observation haki has become incredibly strong. He read Robin's memory instantly. He lost his father when he was young, and his mother abandoned him and went to sea with O'Hara's archaeological team. He spent his childhood living under the roof of others and depending on others' opinions. When he was 8 years old, O'Hara was destroyed by Buster Call and fled alone. Because he was wanted by the world government, he was constantly betrayed and learned to betray others. I faced despair countless times, wanted to give up, and even wanted to commit suicide. But for the sake of his mother Oravia and the wishes of the scholars like O'Hara, he mustered up his courage again and again, gritted his teeth and tried hard to survive. Heartbreaking and infuriating scenes kept flashing through Shakya's mind. You've had a really hard life these years. Shakya stroked Robin's head gently, his eyes full of pity and sympathy for the son of the devil in front of him. Such an unfortunate and dark life is simply too unbearable to look back on. If it were someone else, I'm afraid they would have turned completely evil long ago. But this girl still retains her inner purity and kindness, which is not something everyone can do. Wait, you said you were trapped here, why do you know us? Robin subconsciously took a few steps back, full of vigilance. The dark experiences she had gone through over the years had made her no longer trust anyone easily. The other party has been trapped here for 50 years. Why does he know them so well, and even seems to know the past of her, the son of the devil? This can be considered one of my abilities. Shakya saw this. Not too surprised, he chuckled and said, "Don't be so nervous. After all, if I really want to harm you, you can't resist, right?" Thinking back to the huge Buddha that made people tremble. Nami, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Robin and the others were silent. Let's not talk about this for now. Looking at the Straw Hat crew who were somewhat skeptical about what he said, he did not dare to let his guard down. Shakya did not explain further and briefly introduced the situation of Epsconsid. How should I put it? The passage of time in this space is different from the outside world. All in all, although decades have passed outside, I have only been here for a year. So that's how it is. It's incredible. Luffy, Robin, Sanji and others suddenly realized. No wonder the other person hasn't aged after so much time. It turns out that only 1 year has passed in this space. But do you really know my mother? Looking at the mysterious man in front of me. Robin took a deep breath and couldn't help but ask out loud. See if he can find out something about his mother, Oravia, from the other party. Because when she was very young, her mother had already sent her to live with her uncle and went out to sea with the archaeological team. When we met again, it was already a farewell forever. O'Hara was also destroyed by Buster Call. Of course I know him. Shakya chuckled. He did not hide it and said nonchalantly, according to your time, about 50 years ago, after traveling in the Grand Line for a few years, I returned to West Blue for some reason, but was surrounded by CP0 agents and Marines, minions of the world government. With my strength, I can easily escape, but I am young and energetic, so I naturally don't want to leave in disgrace. Instead, I directly fought with these guys. After a fierce fight, although I relied on my powerful strength to get rid of all those annoying guys, I was also seriously injured and had to recuperate in O'Hara. There I met your mother, Oravia. Speaking of this. He looked at Robin and smiled. She was just a little girl at that time, but she was known as a genius. She was already considered a scholar at a young age, and her knowledge of history was no less than those old pedants who had been studying hard for years. Although strictly speaking, I don't need Oravia's help, she is kind-hearted and very enthusiastic. I guess she is my savior. I treated her as my own sister, and I promised Oravia that when she grew up, I would take her out to sea to find the legendary historical text and explore the historical truth of the blank 100 years. Shakya's eyes were complicated. Looking at Robin's pretty face that is very similar to Oravia. He sighed lightly and smiled helplessly, but it seems that I should break my promise. But it's still ripe. To be honest, in his opinion, Oravia is a really irresponsible mother. Robin had to live under the care of others since he was a child, and in the end he was left alone, struggling to survive in the dark world. After experiencing countless betrayals, he finally learned how to betray and disguise himself, and survived by constantly disguising himself and betraying others. Although she is a user of the paramecia flower fruit, her abilities are not that strong. It's a miracle that I can still survive until now. So that's how it is. Robin suddenly realized. I didn't expect that the other party had met my mother Oravia and they had such a connection. It's really incredible. Chapter 7. I've said so much, but I haven't introduced myself yet. Looking at the Straw Hat crew in front of him, Shakya smiled and introduced himself briefly. My name is Shakya, I come from the Kingdom of Flowers. For some reason, I became a monk in the Dalan Temple of the Kingdom of Flowers, but I really don't like those strict rules and regulations. In the end, I went out to sea with my partner, the giant panda Beilong, who has been with me since childhood. 50 years ago, when I was passing by Lulagia Island, I happened to see the colorful fog suddenly appear, so I broke in here with Beilong. Speaking of this, he spread his hands helplessly. Unexpectedly, an accident happened. I was entangled by those guys from the world government and was trapped here. Due to the different flow of time, although only 1 year has passed here, 50 years have passed in the outside world. Ziobai, say hello to them. Shakya smiled at the surging clouds. Swish! A cloud of gas surged and floated over. Under the incredible gazes of Luffy, Nami, Robin, Zoro, Usopp, and others, he turned into a fat, round giant panda at a speed visible to the naked eye. It has a human-like grin. Waving his chubby, furry paws, as if saying hello, woo-woo. Giant panda. Wow, that's amazing. The body turned into mist. Pandas can actually fly. Nami, Luffy, Usopp, and others. Looking at the giant panda that suddenly appeared in front of him, his eyes lit up. It's saying hello to us. Chopper, the reindeer who has the ability of the human fruit and can communicate with animals, was also full of surprise and translated. Are they animals that ate the devil fruit, just like you, Chopper? Zoro, who was standing by, was full of surprise and said with emotion, come to think of it, this is my first time seeing a giant panda. Pandas are the national treasure of the Kingdom of Flowers. It is strictly forbidden for anyone to capture or privately raise them. Robin, who had traveled to West Blue before and was well informed, marveled, the body can turn into mist. Is he a rare Logia user like Crocodile in the 7 Warlords of the Sea? Although giant pandas are the national treasure of the Kingdom of Flowers, buying and selling them is prohibited. But it is not surprising that a strong man like Shakya keeps a giant panda by his side. However, one pet is suspected to have rare Logia abilities. It's really unbelievable. So cute. Looking at this adorable and silly giant panda, Nami and Robin couldn't help but have stars in their eyes. If it weren't for its huge size, it would have looked a bit more ferocious. Some of them really wanted to go up and pet the cat. Well, giant pandas are also cats. Wait, Mr. Shakya, you just said that the speed of time here is different from that in the outside world. Dr. Henzo, who was standing by, grabbed Shakya's arm after understanding the whole story, and asked anxiously, "Have you seen any children here?" As he spoke, he carefully described the appearance features of his childhood friends. If the flow of time here is really so exaggerated, then his friends should not have changed much since when they accidentally entered here, and they should still look like children. Of course I have. Shakya raised his eyebrows and shrugged. Those little brats were very noisy at first, but I taught them a lesson and they finally calmed down. They live in a big ship inside, you can go find them. Pointed to the distance. Finally, he thought of something and added directly, however, the colorful fog will not exist for long. If you want to get out, you have to hurry. Indeed, we have to hurry up and collect the treasure. Nami reacted and looked at the ships around him with shining eyes. With so many lost ships, there must be a lot of treasure. Call out just at this moment. A huge pipe suddenly extended from outside. A large number of fully armed soldiers rushed in on small speedboats. A tall figure with white hair and beard, looking a bit old, laughed loudly and vigorously, "Ha ha ha ha, the treasure here is mine." Wilton. Hengzhou and others' faces changed drastically. The members of the Straw Hat Pirates also looked at him unfriendly. A bunch of annoying guys. Shakya looked calm and said calmly, "Ziobai, get rid of them within 30 seconds. Woo-woo." The giant panda nodded repeatedly. Under the incredible gazes of Nami and others, the raised right bear paw directly turned into a sophisticated and complex Gatling machine gun. The black gun barrels suddenly started to spin. Day. All of a sudden, countless bullets broke through the air. It shot out continuously as if it was free of charge. Ah, ah! Accompanied by screams. In the blink of an eye, all the pirates were pierced. Except for Mayor Witten, who was in the lead, he barely blocked the incoming bullets with his extremely thick armor equipped with a flamethrower. The others, including his son and grandson, all fell in a pool of blood. Swish! The next moment, under the astonished gaze of the Straw Hat crew, the giant panda Beilong raised his front legs, and his huge paws turned into rocket launchers. Swish! A powerful rocket launcher, wrapped around Haki, shot out. It was as fast as lightning and locked onto the horrified Mayor Witten. "Keep turning there on your own and chasing after them." Boom! There was a loud bang. A fierce fire was present there. The air was so strong that Wilton, who tried to escape, screamed in pain and was blown to pieces. Hiss, he can actually create guns and cannons at will. What kind of ability is this? This is a horrifying scene. The Straw Hat crew present couldn't help but have their pupils shrink. They gasped, some of them felt their scalps tingling, and stared blankly at the cute and silly giant panda which had returned to its original state, and could not help swallowing their saliva. It looks round and harmless. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never have imagined that this pet was so ferocious. How amazing! Chopper widened his eyes, shocked. Although they are both animals, the other party's fruit ability is much stronger than its human fruit. Don't underestimate Ziobai. He is much stronger than you are now. It's easy for him to deal with these low-level pirates. Shakya was not surprised and shrugged. This is just an appetizer for Beilong. This giant panda was carefully selected by him from among thousands of panda cubs. It has already understood human nature and possesses wisdom no less than that of humans. I have practiced and trained with him over the years, and under his unremitting training and guidance, I have even mastered the physical skills and qigong of the Flower Kingdom. He followed this broken monk to fight and hone his skills with those powerful men on the sea, and his strength improved day by day. In addition, Shakya had snatched the fruit from some pirates in his early years and directly fed it with the Paramecia replication fruit ability. The strength of the giant panda Beilong can be said to be incredibly strong. Although not as good as the real monsters in the sea. But under his training, even the elite vice-admirals of the naval headquarters are no match for it. The most important thing is that the ability of the copy fruit is exaggerated. Although it cannot be copied infinitely, it can directly save the memory information of up to 5 abilities and can switch freely between these recorded abilities. Among them, the Logia Cloud fruit was copied from a member of the Knights of God. The Paramecia weapon fruit was copied from the previous user of the weapon fruit, a certain pirates. However, there are limitations. Every time Beilong uses the copied abilities, he can only present one devil fruit ability effect, and cannot use multiple abilities at the same time. Of course, this does not mean that after the giant panda white dragon has copied 5 abilities, it cannot copy other abilities. But it is the newly copied ability if it exceeds the upper limit. It will directly replace other abilities that have been copied before. Shakya adult. At this time, a large ship came slowly. Several children were very excited and kept waving at Shakya on the going merry. Rabani, Abiki, Iso, Longo, Bukeo. Henzo was stunned. Tears welled up in my eyes and I was extremely excited. These were all his childhood companions. Moreover, his appearance has hardly changed from the time when he accidentally entered the colorful fog and disappeared. Chapter 8. Okay, enough small talk, time is running out. Going merry above. Shakya smiled and said to the Straw Hat crew, I have almost collected all the treasures here, so you don't have to waste your energy. Over the long years, this strange other world has trapped countless ships, and has attracted countless pirates, marines, and adventurers. The accumulated treasure is at least tens of billions of Baileys. But in order to make it easier to take away, he melted most of the gold together and cast it into a huge golden ball. Inside are gems, antique calligraphy, and paintings of great value. Nami, who is obsessed with money, is very disappointed. She had chosen to come here just for the treasure. But thinking of the terrifying power of the person in front of him, he naturally didn't dare to have any inappropriate thoughts. But if you want, I can give you some of it. Shakya looks at the disappointed Nami. He glanced at Robin, who had a complicated look on his face, and stroked the little thief's head with his big hand, smiling and saying, just consider it as a thank you for taking care of our little Robin. He originally regarded Oravia as his sister. Then, Robin naturally became his niece. Although, this niece is a little older. In every sense. Shakya. Robin, who was standing by, shuddered. Her beautiful eyes stared blankly at the handsome figure in front of her who was extremely friendly. Is he caring about himself? Ah! Is it really possible? Nami, who is obsessed with money, was surprised and delighted. She had chosen to come here just for the treasure. But I feel a little embarrassed. Certainly. Shakya smiled and nodded. To him, that little bit of treasure was nothing. Of course, the reason why he was so generous was mainly because of Robin. In fact, Shakya has found several devil fruits in this sea area over the past year. Most of them were the high-level CP0 agents and strong men of the Knights of God who followed in and were randomly reborn in this space after their death. But such a treasure is not to be given away easily. Thank you so much, Mr. Shakya. Nami was overjoyed. He hurriedly clasped his hands together and expressed his gratitude. Except at the beginning, when they were almost scared to death. This young and handsome guy is not that difficult to talk to. And Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, Usopp and the others couldn't help but be overjoyed. Unexpectedly, the other party was willing to give them part of the treasure. I have studied this strange space thoroughly. It is extremely unstable, especially when the colorful mist appears and connects to the outside world. Shakya directly said to Nami, Robin, Straw Hat Luffy, Dr. Henzo, and others, as long as there is a violent explosion, it may cause this special piece of space-time to distort, and it is likely to change unpredictably. I have collected a large amount of explosives from those ships in advance, and I am ready to detonate it completely. What? Could it be that you are going to? Dr. Henzo stared at Shakya with his eyes wide open. He had understood that Shakya might want to go back to the past. Although from the perspective of the time paradox, history that has already happened cannot be changed, only the future can be changed. Shakya said calmly, although I am not sure whether I can go back to the past, I still want to give it a try, as long as there is a 1 in 10,000 chance. He is a playboy by nature. Act in a bohemian manner. Of course there are more than just 1 or 2 women. Although he is a bit of a scumbag, he is sincere to every woman. I don't want anything to happen to them, even if there is even the slightest possibility. He would try to go back to the past. Finally, I have something to say to you, little Robin. Shakya looked back at Robin, who had a complicated expression. The bright and gentle eyes looked at the son of the devil, and encouraged with a smile, you are the strongest girl I have ever seen. No matter what happens to you, don't give up easily. If I could go back in time, I would definitely go to O'Hara again and change the fate of you and Oravia. Shakya. Robin was stunned. Go back to the past and change the future. Is this kind of thing really possible? Of course, we must also prepare for the worst. Shakya shrugged, reached out and touched Robin's head, chuckled and said, if I can't go back to the past, I will find you. Then you can follow me. I won't let anyone hurt you. Robin was stunned, staring at each other blankly. I didn't expect the other party to say that. But that gentle look was something she had never felt before. The other person's big hands are so warm and reassuring. She had no rejection at all. Of course, the same goes for you, little thief. Shakya looked at the young and beautiful little thief Nami. With a smile on his face, he winked at the other person and said with a smile, personally, I still like beautiful women. His smile makes people feel like spring breeze. Full of a convincing charm. It was as if there was an invisible force infecting Nami, Robin, and the others. The two of them couldn't help but lose their minds, and each other's words were deeply imprinted in their hearts. So handsome. All of a sudden, Nami's heart trembled. Holding the little hands, I couldn't help but feel tears welling up in my eyes. She was immediately attracted by the tall, handsome, and impeccable guy in front of her, and was so electrified by the look he just gave her that she was a little dazed. Somehow, there seemed to be an indescribable urge in her heart that made her unable to help but agree directly. If there is a chance, it seems that it is not impossible to take risks with the other party. And you can also pet the cat. Hey, Shakya. Aren't you going too far? Yes, Miss Nami and Miss Robin are our partners. UBD, I won't give them to you. Zoro, Sanji, Straw Hat Luffy and the others glared at him and said in dissatisfaction. No way. Shakya didn't care and said calmly, you are too weak to protect them. He was never a good guy. The nickname of the monk who broke his vows was not earned for nothing. If he wants something, he will grab it without hesitation. Don't think that he is friends with Straw Hat Crew just because he was easy to talk to before. If he really can't go back to the past, it might be a real nightmare for Straw Hat Crew. Let's not talk about Robin, who has a connection with me. Just like the little thief before, he used some special methods. Silently, a seed waiting to sprout was planted deep in the other person's heart. A hole, stop looking down on me. Damn it, let me go, I'm going to beat him up. Sorry, Mr. Shakya, they were just joking. Yes, yes, don't worry about it. Luffy, who was impulsive, was furious. Not only him, even Sanji was so angry that he wanted to rush up and fight with the other party. This BD not only wants to take away Robin-chan, but also wants to take away his beloved Miss Nami. But just as the two men uttered the harsh words, they were quickly pulled back by Nami, Chopper, Usopp and others who had come to their senses. Even Zoro, the pirate's hunter, was no exception. Even though the other party's words were infuriating, they really couldn't beat this mysterious guy. Haha, Ziobai. Shakya smiled and didn't care. He gestured directly to the giant panda Beilong. Woo woo. The giant panda Beilong directly switched to the ability of the Logia cloud fruit. His lower body turned into a large amount of cloud and flew directly up and returned to the big ship where he was previously. He soon returned carrying a package half a person's height. Under the shocked gazes of the Straw Hat pirates. Clang, clang, clang. It bared its teeth, opened the package all at once, and poured all the treasures inside onto the deck of Going Merry. A large amount of gold and jewelry were piled there like a mountain. The place is full of dazzling and sparkling things. It's dazzling. Wow! So many treasures. Mr. Shakya, are these really going to be given to us? So much treasure. The Straw Hat Crew couldn't help but open their eyes wide, and were overjoyed. Especially the little thief cat Nami, his eyes were sparkling, he couldn't wait to pounce on them and lie on the treasures. This is a thank you gift from the Straw Hat Crew for taking care of my little Robin these days. Shakya didn't mean to explain, but just chuckled and said, the colorful mist is about to disappear, you guys should leave quickly. The gold and jewelry he gave to the Straw Hat Crew were quite a lot, worth at least 200 to 300 million Baileys. But compared to what he melted into a huge golden ball, what he prepared to take away was just a drop in the bucket. If he can't go back to the past, then it should be considered as compensation paid to the Straw Hat Crew in advance. At that time, he was not only planning to steal Robin, but also the navigator Nami, the little thief cat. Although he didn't really care about the little thief's sailing ability. But even if it is a vase, it is a beautiful vase. It is pleasing to the eye and makes people happy. It is worth collecting, isn't it? A forced melon is not sweet, but it quenches thirst. Chapter 9. Boom boom. Not long after, a loud noise shook the sky. The horrific explosion appeared in the colorful fog. Hwa la la, woo hoo hoo. The waves are rising and falling. The raging sea breeze makes it difficult to open your eyes. It also caused the Mary, which was loaded with a large amount of gold and jewelry, to shake violently. Powerful gusts of wind pushed the fast-sailing ship with a triangular sail structure on the mizzenmast out of the colorful fog. Rabani, Abiki, Iso, Longo, Bukeo. Looking at the colorful mist gradually disappearing, Dr. Henzo was worried about the outcome and was muttering to himself absent-mindedly. Because his friends rejected him and were unwilling to follow them out, he took the risk of staying in the colorful mist, determined to try to go back to the past with Shakya. He didn't know whether these friends could achieve their wishes. Shakya, can you really go back in time and change this? At the stern, Robin pursed his lips. His eyes were fixed on the disappearing colorful mist. There is an inexplicable sadness and loss in my heart. After so many years, she finally met someone who truly cared about her. Although we had just met, the other person's big hands and his gentle, caring eyes made me feel so reassured and warm. But all this is like a fleeting dream. In the end, is she still alone? Bang, bang. Boom, boom. Just at this moment, along with the sound of artillery firing, there was a sound of breaking air. One after another, pitch-black shells fired at us. It exploded on the water surface, splashing a large amount of water, and Going Merry was shaking continuously. Marine. The Straw Hat crew was horrified. I couldn't help but look at the sea in the distance. At some point, no less than 7 or 8 marine warships appeared on the sea, forming a fleet. They are getting closer and closer, surrounding us. The previous wave of artillery fire was obviously just a test fire. The second and third rounds of shelling followed. It must be more dense. Straw Hat crew, you have nowhere to escape. If you know what's best for you, surrender. Otherwise, you will be buried in the sea. On the flagship in the lead, a marine general wearing a cloak of justice, with a slicked back hair and a resolute face, was holding a loudspeaker there, shouting in the direction of Going Merry. Everyone, the situation is not good, we have to leave quickly. Nami's expression changed. Busy talking loudly there. But Dr. Henzo is still on board. Chopper raised his hoof in a direct reminder. Everyone then realized that Dr. Henzo was still on the Mary. Don't worry about me. Please give me a lifebuoy. Then I will just say that I was kidnapped by you. Dr. Henzo didn't want to cause trouble for the Straw Hat pirates, so he proposed directly. With so many warships, it would be very dangerous if the Straw Hat pirates were caught by the Marine. He also couldn't be so selfish as to put the Straw Hat crew in danger. No, the Marine's shells don't have eyes, it's too dangerous. Sanji jumped up, kicked away the 2 incoming shells, and said without looking back. Hey, rubber balloon. Luffy ran to the right side of the Mary. He took a deep breath and let himself expand like a balloon. The 2 incoming shells sunk right into it, and were bounced out the next moment. He stretched out his arms and bared his teeth as he said, then let's go around to the other side of the island and send Dr. Henzo back to the shore safely before we leave. He. Let's do it. Quick, Zoro, hard right. Leave it to me. Soon, with the united efforts of the Straw Hat crew, Going Merry left Lolagia Island and successfully got rid of the marine fleet that was chasing after it. Continue to follow the guidance of the recording pointer and move towards the next stop. Hey, finally safe. Usopp slumped there. He patted his heart and sighed. Hehe, it's a pity that this is only a small part of the treasures in Epsconsid. Nami, the navigator, was overjoyed holding the treasures. But as a money-loving little thief, he still couldn't forget the treasures that he couldn't take away. Okay Nami, stop thinking about the treasure. We can't possibly compete with that guy for it. It's already pretty good to be able to get a small part of it, and it's all thanks to Robin's relationship. Usopp said somewhat helplessly. If it wasn't for Robin's mother, she had some connection with that incredibly strong man. They had no chance of getting anything, and they were lucky to come out alive and unharmed. Yes, that guy is terrible. Thinking back to the scene when he just broke into the colorful fog, Chopper was still frightened. At first, they were almost scared to death by each other, but fortunately, the man had no ill intentions and was just joking with them. But, that Shakya is unexpectedly powerful. Zoro, who was training there and lifting heavy dumbbells, was somewhat inexplicably moved. If there had been a conflict earlier, we might all have been buried there. He claims to be a strong-willed and fearless pirates hunter. Facing that extremely mysterious and terrifyingly powerful guy, I couldn't help but feel fear, and there was an insurmountable feeling of powerlessness in my heart. You know, even the world's greatest swordsman Hawkeye Dracula Mihawk, whom he met at the East Blue Barity restaurant, didn't give him such a dangerous feeling. This also gave him a great sense of crisis. Grand Line is not a peaceful place like East Blue, and he doesn't know what kind of powerful enemy he might encounter. He must become stronger. Robin, what are you drawing? Nami collected the treasures contentedly. I found Robin sitting quietly aside, drawing something on a drawing board. When you get closer, you will see a lifelike, handsome, tall, and majestic figure riding a giant panda. Who else could this be but Shakya, the man they had just met at EPS Concert? Tisk tisk, I have to say, this guy is really handsome. Nami said with a smile while hugging Robin. The other person was as handsome as a Prince Charming, and he completely suited her aesthetic taste. When Shakya invited her, she was actually quite moved. She had an inexplicable urge to agree and be with him forever. However, if he really went back 50 years ago, when we saw him again, he would have become an uncle. Sanji said with some jealousy, no, he should have become an old man with all his teeth lost, right? That's not necessarily true. Robin said with a smile. The previous sadness and loss have disappeared. Looking at the handsome, charming figure on the drawing board. For some reason, she always had a feeling that she might see him soon. Because going back to the past to change the future is too absurd, Shakya may have a high probability of failure. But if that happens, will the other party really come to find me? Would she agree to follow him? P.S. The new book period really needs your support, please vote for me with flowers and votes. Also, please don't be stingy with your comments. You can put forward any suggestions in the comment area. The author will read them. Don't let me play stand alone. Chapter 10. Clatter. Time passes. About half a month later. Near Lulagia Island. A large sea king howled miserably. He was electrocuted to a crisp and fell onto the sea. A tall figure, riding on the giant panda white dragon that turned into a huge cloud, rushed to the coast of Lulagia Island. What is surprising is that there is a huge golden ball on it with a diameter of more than 10 meters and it is shining all over. Who is that? Several old figures with grey hair gathered on the coast, enjoying the sea breeze, and their eyes widened. Sir Shakya. Ah, it's you guys. Shakya recognized a few people and said helplessly, I didn't expect to meet Henzo, Rabani, Byukeo, and the rest of you. It seems that I have failed. The course of history cannot be changed after all. When meeting Dr. Henzo and others, he knew that his plan to go back to the past had failed. Because, not only is Dr. Henzo no different from when he was previously seen in the colorful fog, but also Rabani and others who were also trapped in the colorful fog for 50 years and should have been a group of little ghosts have now become old and frail. To be precise, he must be the only one who failed. Aesop, Rabani, Abiki, and others may have succeeded. In all likelihood, he looks so old because he has spent 50 years outside. I can only say that this is fate. The past cannot be changed, Lord Shakya. We have tried to do something, but fate seems to have decided everything. Accidents of one kind or another always happen. In fact, because Rabani was too upright, he offended the Marine high-ranking officials and has been sitting on the bench in the Marine for many years. Even though he had the ability to be the Vice Admiral of the Naval Headquarters, he was still just a Marine Major until he officially retired a few days ago. Aesop, Byukeo, Rabani, and others, with white hair and wrinkled faces, have long lost the youthful spirit they had in the colorful fog, and they were explaining helplessly. Because in the colorful mist, I received Shakya's grace and guidance. They traveled back 50 years and tried to change O'Hara's fate. But it failed in the end. Without success. Is that so? Shakya nodded. His observation Haki, which could listen to the inner voices, instantly understood the thoughts of Rabani and others. Confirmed that the other party was not lying. He was mentally prepared, so it wasn't too surprising. Even if I could successfully go back to the past. If things go wrong, accidents of one kind or another may happen, and there is no way to prevent them from happening. The most likely possibility is that because of the series of disturbances he caused back then, the extremely enraged world government ordered a large number of combat forces to be dispatched to encircle and suppress him. Or they may not be able to revolving heaven and be killed directly. Or they will be imprisoned in a deep-sea prison. Well, it's a little late. Has half a month passed? Shakya couldn't help but frowned. Because the colorful fog was detonated, time and space were distorted unpredictably, and he came to this era, but compared to the Straw Hat crew, he was about 10 days later. By the way, Rabbani. Shakya thought of something and asked Rabbani directly, you have spent 50 years outside, so I would like to ask you some questions. About Amazon Lily, Daughter Island. But Shakya was disappointed. Because they were not taken seriously, Rabbani and his men were stationed at a marine base on a remote island all year round. Although they had some understanding of the situation in the ocean, they were not very clear about the specific situation of the legendary Daughter Island. All we know is that 50 years ago, Flame Flower, the Queen of the Nine Snakes, suddenly resigned as the Queen of the Nine Snakes, left Amazon Lily, and joined the Rocks Pirates. Later, Rocks Pirate disbanded, and the former Queen of Nine Snakes disappeared. After Flame Flower left Amazon Lily, a female pirate named Peony became the new Queen of the Nine Snakes, often leading the Nine Snakes pirates to plunder. He was chased around by Iron Fist Garp, who was not a marine hero at the time, and his bounty was even over 500 million berries. The previous generation of the Nine Snakes Queen was a female pirate named Tori Toma, who was incredibly powerful and gave Marine a headache. This generation's Nine Snakes Queen, Boa Hancock, had already become the Emperor of Amazon Lily and the captain of the Nine Snakes Pirates at the age of 18. She was offered a bounty of 80 million berries on her first expedition. Soon after, he accepted the invitation of the world government and became one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Mr. Shakya, this is all I know about Amazon Lily and the Nine Snakes Pirates. Tell Shakya the general situation you know. The elderly Rabbani spread his hands and said apologetically, but we don't know whether the succession of the 9 snake empresses was due to their own abdication or other special circumstances, and whether the previous generations of emperors are still alive. Aesop, Bukeo, and others on the side also nodded. Amazon Lily itself is an isolated pirates nation located in the Calm Belt, the lair of the large sea kings. With such a natural barrier, almost no outsiders can easily set foot there. Moreover, the 9 Snakes pirates have always been extremely mysterious. Even the marine side doesn't have much information. It was the Empress Boa Hancock herself who agreed to join the 7 warlords of the sea. It is said that the genius scientist Dr. Vegapunk led the Marine Science Corps and developed a new technology to embed sea stone in the bottom of the warship, which can release the same energy as the sea, avoid being attacked by those sea kings to the greatest extent, and can freely enter and exit the Calm Belt, thus posing a threat to Daughter Island, so they had to compromise. Is that so? Shakya frowned and said helplessly, forget it, I'll go to Amazon Lily to confirm it myself. He pulled out some strange pieces of white paper. Different names are written on these small pieces of paper. This is the legendary life card, which is not afraid of water or fire. It is made by mixing the target's fingernails into the material. It is a kind of paper that represents the vitality of the owner. People usually tear it up and give it to their relatives or friends who are about to separate, and the torn pieces of paper will point to each other. The life card will shrink when its owner is weak, and will return to its original size when the owner recovers. If the owner of the life card dies, the life card will turn directly into ashes. Russell. And these life cards that were originally in the special space of EPS Concert and had no response and were completely ineffective began to move slightly at this time. Confirm that these life cards should not lose their function. And the overall status of each owner is displayed, there is no big problem. This made Shakya feel a little relieved. But I am still anxious to find out about Amazon Lily's situation as soon as possible. Without hesitation, he said goodbye to Dr. Henzo, Rabbani, and others. Jumped back onto the giant panda white dragon in somersault cloud form. Rushed into the distance. Chapter 11. Clatter. The sun is shining. Above the calm sea. An extremely huge cloud with a panda face was speeding across the sea. Well, in Buckner Town near the Drum Kingdom, a madman who claimed to be the king of the Drum Kingdom kept destroying the town and caused riots. He was arrested by Marine. Without staying on Lolagia Island any longer, we said goodbye to Dr. Henzo and others and set off for Shakya in the Calm Belt. I was flipping through the World Economic Forum that I had just bought from a news bird. A user of the Munch Munch fruit ability. Shakya raised his eyebrows when he saw the photo of a fat criminal being held by 2 Marines, with a huge mouth and a cylindrical chin made of iron. He took a sip of red wine and smiled. I went to the Drum Kingdom and searched for this devil fruit for 10 days and a half months, but I couldn't find it. Now I can catch that guy and use the ability of Munch Munch fruit to synthesize a special morphological memory alloy to create the most ideal weapons and combat uniforms. It just so happens that the previous Zen staff was destroyed in the battle with those guys, and I need to make a new one made of stronger material. More than 50 years ago, he took Beilong with him to search the entire magnetic Drum Kingdom. Unfortunately, the inestimable Paramecia. Munch Munch fruit was not found, and even the Zoan. Human fruit was not found. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any Tony Chopper, the reindeer doctor of the Straw Hat Pirates. With his outstanding mind, innate special observation haki, and the ability of the mythical beast species, the great Buddha form, which gave him the Buddha-like wisdom and understanding, Shakya once read the memories of many famous scholars and scientists. He even read the memories of Dr. Vegapunk, a genius scientist in his youth, and Dr. Yuejian, his teacher, and gained access to a series of technologies such as laser waves and biological transformation that are still extremely advanced and not outdated even in this era. Although he is just a scientist who is interested in it. I didn't spend too much time and energy studying this area. But in fact, he has extremely high attainments in all aspects of scientific fields. Even after the giant panda white dragon copied the ability of the weapon fruit, it was only with Shakya's tireless teaching and guidance that he was able to master it so skillfully and change into various weapons at will. As long as we can use the ability of Munch Munch fruit to synthesize the ideal shape memory alloy, it was not too difficult for him to create special weapons that were ahead of current technology and could switch forms freely, as well as a form memory armor that was more perfect than Germa 66. Soon, Shakya found some record pointers from his carry-on luggage. It has labels for the Grand Line Islands on it. This was collected by Shakya when he traveled through the first half of the Grand Line. It contains permanent record pointers to the islands in the first half of the Grand Line. There is no record pointer in Buckner Town, but there is one in the Drum Kingdom not far from there. Let's go there first and buy a permanent record pointer for Buckner Town. Look for it. Soon, Shakya's hand. An additional permanent record pointer is added. It was labeled Drum Kingdom. Pointing to 9 o'clock. Ziobai, turn. Shakya fiddled with the record pointer. He gave instructions directly to the giant panda Beilong. Squeak. After confirming the direction, it responded happily. Turn quickly and fly in the other direction. That's great, I can meet an old friend. Shakya chuckled. Knowing that former confidants like Flame Flower and Gerd should be fine. He felt a lot more relieved and was not too anxious to rush over to see them as soon as possible. After all, Munch Munch fruit was still very important to him. Although he felt that it was unlikely that he could directly deprive him of his devil fruit ability. But it only requires the white dragon to be able to copy the ability of the Munch Munch fruit. That was enough for him. Woohoo! The wind is cold. The giant panda Beilong, who traveled day and night, arrived early the next morning. It had already brought Shakya and the huge golden ball to the Drum Kingdom. Looking at the country covered in ice and snow, Shakya was inexplicably moved. This place hasn't changed at all. For him, the last time he came to the Drum Kingdom was just a year or two ago. But for the magnetic Drum Kingdom, the last time this monk who broke his vows came here was more than 50 years ago. Looking at the looming mountain in the distance, which looked like an iron barrel, Shakya instructed, Ziobai, go directly to the castle at the highest point. Woo-woo. The giant panda Beilong responded. Soon, Shakya was brought to the palace of the Drum Kingdom. Wow, what a rare guest. A man with grey hair, wrinkled face, but a strong figure and fashionable clothes pushed up his sunglasses. He looked at the bear and the man who had arrived in surprise. It's been a long time, Dr. Kalha. Shakya said with a smile as she looked at the witch with superb medical skills in front of her. He had known each other for more than 50 years. Moreover, the two of them got along quite well and even exchanged medical skills. Did you undergo an anti-aging surgery, or did you find the legendary pure gold? Dr. Kalha was full of surprise. More than 50 years have passed, and there is no change at all. She has the secret to maintaining her youthful appearance and is very confident in her maintenance techniques. But the appearance of Shakya, the monk who broke his vows, has not changed at all from 50 years ago. She really couldn't believe it. However, I have not heard any news about you in the past few decades. It's as if you have disappeared. It's really puzzling. You, the Kesadagarba, don't seem like a person who would stay at peace. She leaned against the wall, holding the bottle, and motioned Shakya to come in and talk. Don't be so mean to me. The name Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva is just a compliment from everyone. I am just a lustful monk who doesn't follow the rules and precepts. Shakya smiled nonchalantly. Compared to him, Dr. Kulha is truly amazing. When he met her, she was already in her 80s, but she looked like a mature woman in her 30s or 40s. He is now over 100 years old, and although it is inevitable, he is much older than before. But she looks like she is in her 70s or 80s, and her skin is no worse than those of women in their 30s or 40s. If this were to get out, I'm afraid countless dignitaries would go crazy and would come to ask for advice on how to stay healthy and stay young at any cost. Of course, Shakya had already specifically asked the other party for the secret to eternal youth. He also spent a lot of effort looking for various rare medicinal materials, even the dragon bones of a 1,000-year-old dragon, the fruits of the precious tree Adam, and other materials, and brewed a special medicinal wine that could nourish health and beautify the skin, which he gave to Huoyanhua and others. It's the first time I've seen a monk who dares to kill all the celestial dragons and still be alive and kicking. Dr. Kulha looked at the other party speechlessly. The other party's heroic deeds caused a sensation at the time. Even the world government was extremely angry and ordered the Marines to hunt them down at all costs. It is said that even the Knights of God have been dispatched. The reason why I am so young is because I was trapped in the colorful fog of Lulagia Island, a special sea area called Eps Consid. Shakya did not hide anything. He briefly talked about Eps Consid's situation. It was a space isolated from the outside world. The flow of time was completely different from that of the outside world. I was trapped inside for only a year, but I didn't expect that decades had passed in the outside world. Chapter 12. Eps Consid? I see. Dr. Kulha suddenly realized. She is an expert in medicine and good at health preservation. She has lived to be over 100 years old. She has also traveled on the sea and naturally heard the legend about the colorful fog. It is said that this special sea area is a ship graveyard. Any ship that enters will never return and will never come out again. I didn't expect that it was such a special space. When 1 year passed inside, 50 years would have passed outside. It's really unbelievable. I also tried to go back to the past, but unfortunately failed. Shakya spread his hands helplessly and said to Dr. Kulha with a chuckle, by the way, I met your little reindeer in there, and played a little joke on the Straw Hat crew who broke in there. Chopper. Dr. Kulha smiled. But then he looked at Shakya unkindly and asked speechlessly, you didn't use your ability in the form of a great Buddha to scare my stupid son, did you? But she knew how exaggerated the other party's abilities were. Especially when she saw it for the first time, even though she was a doctor who had lived long enough, seen many ups and downs, and prided herself on being calm and composed in the face of emergencies, she couldn't help but be shocked. It can be used to play tricks and can really scare some people to death. Even if it really came to that, Shakya could easily make the enemies lose their minds with the ability of the mythical beast Great Buddha form, brainwash them into fanatical believers, and make them kill each other without hesitation. Haha, he's a little timid, tears are streaming down his face. Shakya laughed. 2 people and 1 beast came into the castle. We drank some wine and chatted for a while. Unfortunately, although Dr. Kulha was concerned about the situation outside, she did not deliberately try to find out too much. I don't know what's going on with Amazon Lily, nor do I know the situation of the previous 9 Snake Queen, Flame Flower, and others. At noon, Shakya asked Dr. Kulha for the record pointer of the town of Bakarna and prepared to say goodbye and leave. As for Tony Chopper, the user of the human fruit, who had accidentally developed the formula for the rumble balls, he had no intention of asking for it. Because Shakya had already developed such a medicine, named Sheridan. And combined with the special observation haki that can directly read other people's memories, he obtained knowledge about biological genes and drugs from world-renowned scientists. The Sheridan he developed is even more effective than the Rambo ball. This drug, which can directly affect the transformation wavelength of Zoan users, mainly serves as a key, allowing him to unlock multiple transformation forms. Originally, the relic pill could greatly enhance combat power. But for him now, the effect is minimal. Combined with what has already been naturally understood, it is possible to finally control any part of the body, and the life of every inch of the body and organ tissue is under intentional control. When he uses the ability of the mythical beast Great Buddha form, it is completely an enlarged version of himself, turning into a golden body. There will not be those weird-looking fleshy buns on the head as seen in the Buddha statues, and the body will not become so bloated and pot-bellied. After all, he is a perfectionist. Regardless of whether he is strong or not, being handsome is a lifelong thing. His majestic image cannot be tarnished. You're really an unexpected guy, carrying such a huge gold ball around. Seeing the giant panda white dragon turning into mist and holding the huge golden ball on its back, Dr. Kalha said with a strange smile, "Why not give it to me? That won't do. This is the bridal gift I want to give to Flame Flower." He jumped onto the white dragon, which had grown in size and was surrounded by turbulent clouds. Shakya looked at Dr. Kalha, winked at him, and said with a smile, "Kalha, if you were 100 or 80 years younger, I would consider it." "Get lost, you think I'm too old?" Dr. Kalha rolled her eyes. She jumped high and kicked him, "This witch has the heart of an 18-year-old girl forever, and she will not like a philandering monk like you who broke the precepts. This witch from the magnetic drum kingdom charges an outrageous price for medical treatment, but her medical skills are so superb that countless people grit their teeth and have to beg her for treatment in a humble manner. Her figure is so agile and nimble that she doesn't look like an old woman who is exactly 139 years old." Hee hee. The giant panda Beilong screams. It reacted quickly, carrying Shakya and the giant golden ball, and easily dodged the opponent's attack. "Ha ha ha, you're not old at all. I estimate that your lifespan, Kalha, will not be shorter than that of the giants. You can live to at least 200 or 300 years old." Shakya left with a big laugh, "See you later." "Haha, then I'll take your advice." Hearing this, Dr. Kalha chuckled. Now that she heard it, she was actually quite interested and wanted to try whether she could live as long as the giants. As the wave of this new era is about to arrive, an unexpected guy, who has disappeared for decades, suddenly shows up. In the castle covered in snow. Dr. Kalha picked up a bottle of vodka and took a gulp. Looking at Shakya's departing figure, this witch, who has lived for hundreds of years and has rich experience, couldn't help but sigh, the sea is going to be lively again. That afternoon. Buckner Township. Following the guidance of the recording pointer, Shakya and the giant panda white dragon, who had deterred from the drum kingdom, arrived at their destination. "Ziobai, just wait for me here." Considering that the giant panda Beilong is carrying a giant golden ball, it is too easy to cause a sensation. Shakya simply asked it to wait on the deserted coast. The tall figure moved swiftly and soon rushed into the town. "Don't let him get away. Quick, search over there. We must find him out." At this moment, there was some chaos in the town. The reason was that Marine was negligent in not using sea stone handcuffs. While imprisoned, Wapol bit the shackles to pieces and even bit through the prison wall and escaped directly. A large number of Marines are constantly searching for his whereabouts. Hiding under the bridge. Watch this farce. The powerful observation haki covers the entire island. Those messy voices came into my mind one by one. Soon locked onto Wapol's aura. Swish. Shakya's figure moved. It disappeared on the rooftop of a 3-story, inconspicuous building. A few minutes later, west of town. On a stone bridge, several Marines armed with guns just ran past. No one noticed Wapol, who was hiding under the bridge and shivering. The impoverished former king of the Drum Kingdom just breathed a sigh of relief. A tall figure appeared in front of him. "Who are you?" Wapol was shocked. "You don't need to know." Sneered. Shakya's eyes suddenly became stern. A powerful conqueror's haki was suddenly released. Bang! Wapol's eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground. He was stunned by the powerful haki. Soon, Shakya brought Wapol to the coast. He left the guy there and said directly to the curious giant panda, "Ziobai, he is the user of the Munch Munch fruit ability, copy his ability." Squeak! Beilong, who had already thrown the huge golden ball into the green forest nearby, turned back into a panda and ran forward, kicking the unconscious Wapol. One bare paw was raised and pressed down on the other's body. It shines with an eerie blue light, a direct copy of Wapol's Munch Munch fruit ability. Try to swallow him and see if you can directly recover his abilities. "You're welcome to crush the opponent's neck," Shakya said directly to Beilong. At the same time, throw over a bag of freshly bought fruit. Even though Beilong is not an ordinary giant panda, he has intelligence that is no less than that of humans. But after all, they are just beasts, and there is still a gap between them and real humans, not to mention that even the differences in talents and understanding among humans are huge differences. Under normal circumstances, it is obviously impossible to fully understand such a complicated thing at once, and it is impossible to skillfully use the copied fruit ability so easily. But Shakya is a user of the mythical beast-type Great Buddha form. This ability endows him with Buddha-like wisdom, spirit, and strength. Although it is impossible for the Buddha to teach the world as exaggerated as the legend says, and to directly enlighten all living beings. But he is really able to infect and influence others and even animals invisibly and communicate without obstacles. Combined with his special observation haki, it allows him to transmit the user's own consciousness to the target, just like Princess Otohime, influencing the minds and thoughts of others and creating a strong resonance. Even if Shakya wanted to, he could easily change the target's values and ideology, and completely brainwash those who were weak-minded and lacked strength. The ability to pass this bug. It can be said that he is equivalent to having the famous teacher buff. Able to directly and accurately convey one's own consciousness to others, allowing their brains to fully understand and comprehend one's meaning. As long as Shakya wants the other party to understand, even a giant panda like Beilong can understand and comprehend his spirit and will without any obstacles. This is also the real reason why, under his teaching, Haku was able to master the unique skills of the Flower Kingdom and become a true Kung Fu Panda, and even the copied weapon fruit abilities could be used so skillfully. Woo woo. The white dragon bared its teeth and opened its mouth wide. The mouth became extremely exaggerated and huge. He simply swallowed the corpse and the fruits alive. Crack, crack. Not long. A bloated corpse and a large amount of fruit were vomited out one after another by the giant panda Beilong. But to Shakya's disappointment, the fruits did not change at all. Squeak, squeak. The white dragon bared its teeth and wagged its tail at its master. It seems to be saying no or can't do it. Well, it's okay, failure is failure. Shakya patted the giant panda and said with a smile, the most important thing is that you have successfully copied the ability of Munch Munch fruit. Let's go, it's time to go to Amazon Lily. Woo woo. Chapter 13. Everyone. I have some bad news. The record pointer seems to be malfunctioning, at the same time. An uncharted sea. On board the Going Merry. Nami suddenly got frightened and jumped up. Pointing at the record pointer that he had converted into a watch, he said loudly to the Straw Hat Pirates, "It's very strange. Since we left Alabasta, it has gradually pointed to the sky. As we get closer and closer to our destination, the angle of the pointer has also begun to tilt upwards. I hadn't paid much attention to it, but now it's pointing straight up and there's no way for us to go." What? Hearing Nami say this, the Straw Hat crew present were all a little surprised. He hurried over and looked at the record pointer on Nami's wrist. The pointer above was pointing directly upwards. Come to think of it, it seems that there is indeed a legend of Sky Island in this sea area. Robin came over. He tilted his head and thought for a while, then said, "Really?" Looking up at the blue sky. Chopper tilted his head and asked, "Sky Island? You mean the island in the sky?" "Stupid, how is that possible?" Usopp knocked the hat on its head and said, "It's just a legend. Aren't legends just lies? Indeed, it's unlikely no matter how you think about it." Glancing at the sky, Zoro chimed in, "How can there be an island in the sky?" "No, there is definitely nothing wrong with the recording pointer. It points to the sky, so Sky Island must exist." Luffy said loudly. "Even if you say so, we can't go directly to heaven." Nami spread her hands. She couldn't help but think of that incredibly handsome and mysterious man. If only Mr. Shakya's giant panda was here, it would definitely be able to take us up there. And that giant panda, I really want to hug it and pet it. Yeah, why don't we just fly up and take a look? Luffy clapped his fist and said with sudden enlightenment. Just fly up and take a look. Luffy, you make it sound so easy, can you fly? Usopp looked at the stupid captain speechlessly. Oh? I can't fly. Everyone in the Straw Hat crew was talking at the same time. But except for Luffy, who is a bit stubborn and firmly believes in his beliefs. Others don't quite believe in the existence of Sky Island. Wait, what is that? But suddenly, Chopper pointed to the sky and cried out. That is. Hey, are you kidding me? It's a ship. Hearing this, everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates looked up subconsciously. I saw a black spot that was getting bigger and bigger. Then, everyone was shocked and tears burst out. Because, it was a huge, dilapidated ship, and objects of all sizes were falling down at an alarming speed. Idiot, run! It was discovered that the huge ship that was falling happened to be right above the Mary. Nami's face turned pale, and she was busy reminding him loudly, if he falls, it will be the end of him. Quick, full right rudder! You guys, row faster! For a while, there was chaos on the Mary. But it quickly accelerated and dodged the huge ship that was falling straight down. Boom boom! Clatter! The noise was deafening. The huge ship crashed heavily into the sea. There were huge splashes of water and the waves were surging. The Mary, which had barely escaped the disaster, was also shaking there due to the huge waves. Call! I just feel that the Straw Hat Pirates survived the disaster. They all breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the cold sweat off their foreheads. Hey? What is that? Some tattered newspapers and tiny debris were flying in the air with the sea breeze. A yellowed newspaper directly covered the face of Straw Hat Luffy. He grabbed it angrily. Just tear it into pieces. Etc. Robin hurriedly stopped him. She was sharp-eyed and saw the date on the newspaper. She said, "See Circle Calendar 1470. This is a newspaper from 50 years ago." What? Doesn't this mean that this ship is from 50 years ago? But why is it in the sky? Could it be that Sky Island really exists? Everyone else present was surprised. They all looked up at the sky, somewhat confused and puzzled. Originally, they didn't believe in the Sky Island legend. But the shipwreck that fell from the sky made them doubt. Robin, do you want to read these old newspapers? I saw Robin browsing the old newspaper with great interest. Luffy tilted his head and looked at the papers scattered on the sea and flying away with the sea breeze. Rubber, rubber. With quick eyes and hands, he stretched out his arms and grabbed a dozen flying newspapers, which were also mixed with several reward notices, from more than 10 meters away. Hee, here, for you. Luffy grinned. He handed all the newspapers and reward notices to Robin. Thanks. Robin smiled. He took the newspapers and continued browsing. And Nami, Chopper, Usopp and the others came over curiously. What is this? A bounty from 50 years ago. Usopp was filled with curiosity. He grabbed a few bounty notices and flipped through them. Edward Newgate, Earthquake Man, Bounty, let me see, 1, 10, 100, 1000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million. 666 million Baileys? Is that true? His mouth opened wide. The voice became sharp and his eyes seemed to pop out of his head. Hiss, 600 million. Gulp. How is this possible? Hey, are you kidding me? Everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates couldn't help but widen their eyes. He looked at Usopp, who read out the result with some disbelief. Since they set out to sea, even Luffy has only 30 million belly. There was actually someone whose bounty had reached 666 million Baileys 50 years ago? Of course, after the Alabasta incident, Luffy's bounty has been raised to 100 million belly, and even Zoro's bounty is 60 million belly. But Straw Hat Crew doesn't know yet. This should be true. Robin next to him put down the first newspaper and said with a smile, if it's not the same name, this Earthquake Man Edward Newgate, now his nickname is Whitebeard, he is the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, with a large number of pirates under his command, and is one of the 4 emperors of the New World. He was a legendary great pirate who once stood on equal footing with the pirate king Roger. He was truly the king of the sea, the uncrowned king, and was recognized as the world's strongest man. Speaking of this, she looked at the photo on the bounty notice, gazing at the young man with long blonde hair and a slightly protruding chin, and added, also, Whitebeard's bounty has now been raised to 5.046 billion Baileys. I think he was only in his early 20s at that time, without even a beard, and had just made a name for himself, so the bounty wasn't as high as it is now. 4 emperors? 5 billion. On par with Pirates King Roger. The king of the sea? The strongest man in the world? Is that so powerful? Whitebeard. I remember Luffy's brother Ace mentioned that he joined the Whitebeard Pirates, right? Listening to Robin's introduction, even Zoro, Sanji and the others were dumbfounded. It's hard to imagine how strong a person must be to be recognized as the strongest man in the world. Some were amazed. Chapter 14. Ah, is this uncle so powerful? Luffy blinked. Looking at the bounty notice, there was a tall and majestic figure with long golden hair and a naginata in hand. He didn't expect that his sworn brother Ace, the uncle Whitebeard whom he had mentioned to him before in Alabasta, would have such an outrageous bounty. He tilted his head in confusion and asked, "But what are the 4 emperors?" "It means the pirate emperor who reigns over that sea like an emperor. There are 4 such great pirates in the New World, so they are collectively called the 4 emperors." Robin explained to the other members of the Straw Hat crew, naval headquarters, 7 warlords of the sea, 4 emperors of the New World. These are the 3 major forces of the Grand Line. They are the 3 major forces that jointly maintain the order of the Grand Line. Once the balance is lost, the sea will fall into chaos, leading to unpredictable consequences. So that's how it is. Luffy, Nami, Usopp, and others suddenly realized. Big Mom Charlotte Linlin. Usopp continued to look through the bounty list. Wow, that's amazing. Her bounty is 868 million Baileys. Tear it up. Chopper exclaimed in amazement. Ah, are there any other female pirates that powerful? Nami is full of wonder. It is jaw-dropping that a female pirate has such a high bounty. Zoro, who was standing by, couldn't help but stroke his chin and said with emotion, "Female pirates with such amazing bounties are indeed rare. This female pirates is pretty." Sanji, the lecherous man, couldn't help but be tempted by the young and beautiful Charlotte Linlin. That was a photo from 50 years ago. Big Mom is now one of the 4 emperors of the New World. I remember her bounty was 4.388 billion Baileys. Recalling the fat and ferocious face on Charlotte Linlin's bounty list, Robin smiled lightly, blinked, and said in a somewhat narrow-minded tone, "I believe that you, Mr. Chef, would not want to see the current Big Mom. Then forget it." I couldn't wait to grab Big Mom's bounty slip and was admiring the amazing waves on it with excitement. But after hearing Robin's words, Sanji instantly thought of some terrible images and couldn't help but shudder. He hurriedly stuffed Big Mom's bounty slip back into Usopp's hand. Wow! Just at this moment, Usopp continued to look through the bounty list. Wu's eyes widened and he screamed, "Hey, is this true?" Amid the puzzled looks of others, he directly spread out the reward list in front of everyone. A young and handsome figure holding a Zen stick appeared above. Moreover, it made the Straw Hat crew present here feel extremely familiar. Everyone couldn't help but open their mouths wide. His face was full of astonishment and dullness. Especially Robin. I couldn't help but be surprised. This is Shakya. That's right. This is the bounty list from 50 years ago. The photo posted on it was Shakya's. Kizaru Shakya, bounty of 2 billion berries, regardless of life or death. It's really him. Mr. Shakya, is he a pirate too? Wow, Kizaru? So many zeros. Tisk, tisk, let me count. 200 million Baileys. Stupid, you missed a zero, it's 2 billion. What? 2 billion, are you kidding me? Gilu. It really is 2 billion Baileys. Hiss for a while. It's not just Robin. Everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates was stunned. Everyone's eyes were wide open, their mouths were open, and their jaws were almost dropping to the ground. Thinking back to the Shakya I met in the colorful fog before, he looked so young. It is somewhat unimaginable that the other party actually has such a high bounty. His bounty is actually higher than Whitebeard and Big Mom at the time. Robin lost his voice. In fact, she was so interested in those old newspapers just now. I also subconsciously held some fantasies, wanting to see if I could get some useful information from these old newspapers. Unexpectedly, Luffy accidentally collected bounty lists from 50 years ago, which included not only bounty lists of Whitebeard, Big Mom, and others, but also the bounty list of the mysterious Shakya himself, whom he had seen in EPS Concert before. Moreover, Shakya actually has the hacky nickname Kizaru, and his bounty is much higher than that of Whitebeard, who was not yet known as the strongest man in the world at that time. Incredible! Nami said in amazement, it's hard to imagine what that guy did to have such a high bounty. I wonder if there are any relevant reports in these newspapers. Robin couldn't believe it either. Looking at the bounty list, she couldn't help but be amazed by the handsome figure of Shakya riding the giant panda Beilong. It turns out Shakya is so powerful, no wonder he was so confident and said he would protect her. This is... Usopp continued to flip through the bounty list. Looking at the figure above, I was a little stunned. The whole person stood there in a daze. What's wrong? Usopp, Which big shot is this again? Turn it over and show us. Luffy, Chopper, Zoro and the others urged. Obviously, they all had great interest in the bounties of those big shots. You'll never guess. Look who this is. Usopp came back to his senses. He quickly turned the reward sheet over. Show it to a somewhat confused crowd. His white dragon. Kung Fu Panda. 100 million Baileys. Hiss. Is that giant panda so powerful? It's still the bounty from 50 years ago. Isn't that too exaggerated? Look at the bounty list. The giant panda was grinning, with its claws clenched into fists, looking very imposing. It says, Kung Fu Panda. White Dragon, bounty of 100 million berries, life or death is of no concern. This made everyone in the Straw Hat crew gasp. It's not just Shakya himself. Even his pet is so exaggerated. Robin was also a little dazed, full of disbelief. She looked at the giant panda, which was very docile. Although I know that the other party is the user of the Paramecia copy fruit, his strength is indeed very strong. But when I first saw the astronomical figure of 100 million Baileys, I was still a little dumbfounded. That's amazing. It's higher than the bounties of all of us combined. Nami exclaimed. Sanji said bluntly, that panda is indeed very strong. I'm afraid that even if all of us put our forces together, we may not be able to defeat it. He had fought against those pirates on Lulagia Island. Not to mention Mayor Witten himself, just the sight of his grandson wearing the discharge device made him helpless and he suffered a great loss. However, in EPS Concert, Beilong, the giant panda, easily wiped out all those guys. All in all, it took less than half a minute. It's really shocking. So, we have to work harder from now on. Zoro wasn't too shocked. Instead, his eyes were blazing and he was full of fighting spirit. If you think about it carefully, Shakya was only a few years older than us at that time. Hehe, sooner or later we will surpass those big pirates. Luffy clenched his fists. He said it with high morale and full of confidence. He is the man who wants to become the king of pirates, how can he just give up like this? We have to work harder. Yes, I have to work harder. Encouraged by Luffy, Chopper is full of confidence. It has just been out to sea for a short time and there is no bounty yet. But it believes that as long as it performs well, it will soon get the reward with its own strength. By then, Dr. Doriel will definitely be shocked. He. They are all animals, and reindeers are no worse than pandas. Wait, isn't the picture posted here Shakya? Sudden Nami was sharp-eyed and grabbed an old newspaper, motioning to everyone. In a yellowed black and white picture, Shakya is standing there holding a Zen stick, Haki is outstanding, and the giant panda is beside him. But that giant panda was different from its usual cute appearance. At this moment, the white dragon's body was intertwined with electric light, and it looked extremely ferocious, and was in a kicking posture. Moreover, the man and the beast were surrounded by devastated ruins and the corpses of marines lying all over the place. In front of him, there was a middle-aged man with a naked upper body, exaggerated bulging muscles and a mohawk hairstyle. He was covered in blood, supported on one knee, and looked exhausted. But because of the shooting angle, it looked like Shakya was holding a Zen stick and pointing it directly at the opponent's head, as if he could take his life at any time. Looks like some Haki is extraordinary. Chapter 15. It's really him. These guys, are they Marines? That giant panda named Beilong is here too. He looks so fierce. Gilu. A giant warrior was hung there. Did Mr. Shakya fight Marine? What did it report? Hearing this, everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates came over with great interest. They are now obviously full of curiosity about the extremely mysterious case at Agarba. If you want to know more information, the other party was undoubtedly a prominent figure back then. It really makes people curious about what sensational things they have done. Really? Let me see. Robin's eyes lit up. I didn't expect that there was news about Shakya in these old newspapers. I was curious for a moment and took the newspaper and started reading. What is this? In an instant, her pupils suddenly dilated. The tempting little mouth opened wide subconsciously. His face was filled with shock and astonishment, and he was directly stunned by the bold black title above. The most heinous criminal in history, the broken precepts monk Shakya. Big event. Celestial dragons attacked, naval headquarters top force defeated unforgivable. Blasphemer who offended the descendants of the Creator, Kizaru Shakya fierce conflict. Admiral of Headquarters Kong vs Shakya, the monk who broke his vows shock. The birth of another great pirate with a bounty of over 2 billion berries. See Circle Calendar January 18, 1470. 3 months ago, the monk Shakya, who destroyed the marine fleet in East Blue and liberated a large number of slave criminals in the Bridge country, the Tequila Wolf, and was called Kizaru and Savior by countless slaves. 3 days ago, he was on Tokto Island in the first half of the Grand Line H3 route and clashed with the Roger pirates alone. He escaped unscathed, but suddenly appeared in the Sabayati archipelago and attacked the celestial dragons. After reading this, Robin couldn't help but widen his eyes in disbelief. Did Shakya ever fight against pirates King Roger? And it also attacked celestial dragons? What? Roger pirates? That Shakya actually fought against the pirates King Roger. Is that guy so powerful? He fought against the Roger pirates alone and was able to escape unscathed. Tear it off. He can stand on equal footing with the legendary pirates like Roger pirates by himself. It's really amazing. Listen to Robin's reading. Everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates present was shocked. I was a little dazed and couldn't believe my ears. I was shocked to find that Kizaru Shakya was such an amazing figure. That guy is really amazing. Nami exclaimed. Of course, as newcomers, they had very little knowledge of the ocean. Therefore, I was just shocked that Shakya actually fought with the pirates King Roger, and the outcome was inconclusive. It is not clear what the attack on the world's noble celestial dragons means. Otherwise, it would be more than just this performance. At that time, Roger pirates had not yet completed the feat of circling the Grand Line, and Roger had not yet been called the Pirate King by the world. Robin also felt a little emotional. I have to say, Shakya is really amazing. He even went to the kingdom on the bridge in East Blue and liberated the slaves who were detained and working there. No wonder he is called Kizaru Bodhisattva. This made Robin full of admiration and respect. She had also heard of that place. It was said that the bridge had been under construction for more than 700 years. Most of those laborers, or slaves, were deprived of their membership of the world government because they could not afford to pay the gold from heaven, or they were citizens of countries that had never joined the world government. Countries that are not members of the world government do not have human rights and are not protected by the marine. And those countries that were deprived of their membership status because they could not pay the huge amount of gold provided for the enjoyment of the world's nobles often suffered a miserable end. It is often used as an example by the world government to intimidate other member states, forcing them to continue to pay huge amounts of gold, and not dare to withdraw for fear of losing their status as a member state. In particular, after many countries were conquered by marine, the entire nation became slaves and were sent to East Blue to build huge bridges. Therefore, in order to pay huge amounts of gold from the sky every year, countless countries on this ocean can only launch crazy wars against other countries and plunder the resources of other countries, or they can only exploit their own people desperately. What made her even more unbelievable was that as the founder of the former world government and descendants of the Creator 20 kings, celestial dragons enjoy all privileges and are at the top. Rumor has it that once they are offended, even the Marine Admiral will personally go out to defend them. If anything happens to celestial dragons, it will lead to unimaginable consequences. And Shakya had the audacity to attack celestial dragons. And this was 50 years ago. It looked like the enraged world government and naval headquarters were unable to do anything to him afterwards. The whole person is safe and sound, still alive and kicking. It's really tough. Hurry, continue. What's the rest of it? Suddenly I heard about such great deeds. Everyone was quite interested and scratching their heads. Especially Straw Hat Luffy, who couldn't wait to urge, hurry up and read on, Robin. At 4:30 p.m. that day, on Peninsula No. 1 above the Sabayati archipelago, a grand auction had just ended when the monk Shakya, who had broken his vows, suddenly attacked 3 world nobles who had come to participate in the auction, including Saint Fickle, Saint Brian and Saint Roadwalk, and released the slaves on the spot. The reason seems to be that among the slaves brought by celestial dragons, there is a prince from a non-world government member country in North Blue, who is his good friend. Not long ago, the country was conquered by the world government, and the entire royal family was sent to the holy land of Marijois and became slaves of celestial dragons. Therefore, the monk Shakya, who broke his vows, did not hesitate to risk the world's condemnation and attack the world's nobles in order to rescue his friend. After receiving the report, Marine Admiral Kong immediately went out in person, leading tens of thousands of elite marines to rescue the world's nobles, and engaged in a fierce battle with the broken monk Shakya. Robin smiled. Holding the yellowed old newspaper and continuing to read it, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. Obviously shocked by the contents of the report, he took a deep breath and read softly, "The brave and fearless Kong Admiral was indomitable. He fought desperately with the ferocious monks with his tenacious will. He fought bloody battles, but unfortunately he was defeated in the end. Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral Sengoku and Iron Fist Garp, who were originally stationed at the G1 Fortress in New World, arrived in time to provide support. The broken monk Shakya saw that the situation was not good and fled, but the 3 celestial dragons were all killed. The world government is furious and has announced a bounty of 2 billion berries for the pirates who dared to offend the descendants of the Creator, the unforgivable crime, Kizaru Shakya, regardless of life or death." Chapter 16. Ale. Going merry. Listening to the report read by Robin, Luffy tilted his head and asked, "Iron Fist Garp? Grandpa? Iron Fist Garp? Is this his grandfather Garp's nickname? And he had fought with that Kizaru Shakya? However, my grandfather's fist is indeed stronger than steel. Every time I get beaten by the other party, it hurts terribly. Grandfather." Nami, Zoro, Sanji, Robin and the others all stared blankly at Luffy. Usopp thought he had misheard and asked, "Luffy, what did you just say?" "Hey? Didn't I tell you?" Seeing everyone staring at him, Luffy said blankly, "My grandfather is a marine." "Gilu. Your grandfather is the marine hero Garp, the legendary Vice Admiral Garp." Nami swallowed and asked in disbelief. "Yes." Luffy nodded and said matter-of-factly, "Any questions?" Looking at Luffy who didn't agree. The members of the Straw Hat Pirates looked at each other, all speechless. Grandfather is a marine hero, grandson is a pirate, and brother-in-law is the son of Pirate King Roger. The target is still the Pirates King? I didn't expect you to have such a surprising background, Luffy. Robin said in surprise. She really didn't expect that Luffy's grandfather was the legendary marine hero. In that case, didn't Shakya once fight with Luffy's grandfather? But then again, that Kizaru is so powerful that even the Marine Admiral is no match for him. Chopper's eyes sparkled with diamond-shaped stars, and he couldn't help but admire Shakya. As it said that, it looked at Luffy curiously, pointed at the marine generals published in the newspaper, and asked impatiently, "Luffy, if your grandfather is the Vice Admiral Garp, do you know this Marine Admiral Kong and that Marine Vice Admiral Sengoku?" "Kong? Sengoku?" Luffy scratched his head, looking confused. "I don't know him. I haven't even heard Grandpa mention him." Of course, even his grandfather Monkey D. Garp was only the Vice Admiral of the Naval Headquarters. I believe that those who can become Marine Admiral or Marine Marshal are definitely incredibly strong. However, this can better illustrate how powerful the mysterious Kizaru Shakya is. Sengoku, later became Admiral of Headquarters, and now is Marine Marshal. Robin took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "The previous Marine Admiral was the Marine Admiral Kong who was defeated by Kizaru Shakya. Now he is the Commander-in-Chief of the world government's army." She never expected it. Kizaru Shakya is so powerful. Dare to attack celestial dragons directly to save your friends. Even the Admiral, who was said to represent the highest combat power of the naval headquarters, couldn't do anything to him. Even Kong, the former Marine Admiral and current Commander-in-Chief of the world government's entire army, was defeated by him. As for the reports, the so-called seeing the situation was not good, he fled in panic and so on. Isn't it just that the Marines, who outnumbered the enemy, were unable to do anything to them, and were forced to break out of the encirclement and leave safely? Incredible. Nami was filled with shock. She had no idea how strong Marshal Marine was. But I believe that anyone who can reach the highest power in Marine must have extraordinary strength and should not be weak. He defeated the Marine Admiral at the time, and even when Vice Admiral Garp, who was rumored to have forced the Pirate King Roger into desperate situations several times and chased the Roger pirates around the world, and Sengoku, who is now the Marine Marshal, both came to support him, he was still unable to stop him. In particular, it was said that the other party attacked the world nobles and directly fought with the Marine Admiral in order to save his friends. Being able to do this, Shakya can be said to be a man of both affection and righteousness. Such a man is truly admirable. For a moment, everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates was amazed. They obviously couldn't imagine that Shakya, who was only a few years older than them, had such an impressive record. Not only did he defeat the then Marine Admiral Kong, but he was even able to escape unscathed when two legendary marines, Sengoku and Garp, who were marine vice admirals at the time and are now marine marshal and marine hero respectively, arrived. Nothing happened. Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva, Shakya. Moment Robin, who had recovered from the shock, was filled with emotion. I never thought he was such an amazing person. She now. After Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, was defeated, Baroque works ceased to exist and they had nowhere to go, so they were forced to take refuge with the Straw Hat Pirates. But I don't have much sense of belonging to this team at the moment. At most, he just has some feelings towards Straw Hat Luffy who once saved him. Of course, if you really count, she once saved the other person in Alabasta. Robin has experienced countless betrayals and has learned to betray others in order to survive. He is extremely sensitive and wary of everything. He no longer trusts anyone easily. Moreover, he had just boarded the Going Merry, and had not yet established true trust with the other members of the Straw Hat Pirates to become partners in whose lives they would depend. For a moment, I couldn't help but hold the newspaper tightly. I have some inexplicable expectations in my heart, but I can't avoid feeling a little nervous and conflicted. If I couldn't go back to the past, would that person really come to find me? Robin, look again. Yes, there should be other interesting news in these newspapers. Everyone felt as if they were scratched by a cat. I feel a little itchy in my heart and I am unwilling to give up. Robin naturally wanted to look for other news, so he quickly flipped through other old newspapers, trying to find information about Shakya. Finally, I found another one. On it, there was news about Shakya's conflict with Rox, the captain of Rox Pirate. On February 15, 1470 in Sea Circle calendar, the monk Shakya refused the offer from the great pirate Rox and clashed with the Rox pirates. He fought with the Rox for a whole day and night, and finally left. Rox. I don't think I've ever heard of Rox Pirate. I guess these Rox should be the big pirates of that era, right? Listen to Robin's reading. Everyone in the Straw Hat crew felt a sense of inexplicable emotion. Especially Nami and Chopper, they have almost become fans. Although they didn't know who Rox was, all of Ksatagarbha's former opponents were big names in the Grand Line. It is estimated that this Rox was also a powerful and famous figure in that era. Don't forget, this is the bounty from 50 years ago. Sanji, with a cigarette in his mouth, suddenly reminded, if he hadn't been trapped in the colorful fog, in this era, the bounty might be higher. Really? Nami, Chopper, Luffy and the others' eyes widened. Usopp was a little dumbfounded. Doesn't that mean that Shakya's bounty may be comparable to those 4 emperors such as Whitebeard and Big Mom? Indeed, if we look at his fearless character that day, the bounty might actually increase further. Zoro standing by did not refute Sanji. Instead, he nodded suddenly and guessed. Not necessarily. Robin thought for a moment and said softly, I heard that once the bounty exceeds a certain amount, it is difficult to increase it. If I remember correctly, Whitebeard, the legendary pirate known as the Great Poseidon, had a bounty of more than 40 billion Baileys 20 years ago, and now it is only just over 5 billion Baileys. After all, no matter how strong Shakya is, if you don't count Bailong as his giant panda partner, he is just fighting alone and has not formed or joined any other forces. His bounty is so high, far exceeding that of Whitebeard and others of the same period. It's mainly because he killed a world noble, which angered the world government, so they offered a huge bounty. At this time, in the distance, 2 huge ships were approaching slowly. We are the Yuan Shan United Army. The treasure of this sunken ship belongs to us. A man who looked like an orangutan, with an exaggerated size and a strong body, shouted, Leave quickly, pirates! Ale! Saruyama United Army. The Straw Hat crew was surprised. Looking at these guys who suddenly appeared. Treasure! Nami's eyes lit up. Immediately, he put his hands on his hips and responded loudly and firmly, No, first come, first served. We came across it first, so it's ours. Hey, there's a rule in the pirate world, it's the first to strike that counts. On the opposite side, another big man who looked like an ape said with a sinister grin. The words haven't finished yet. The guns on their ship opened fire directly. One shell after another was fired directly at the Going Merry on the opposite side. Bang, bang. Chapter 17. Ahem. Misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding, brother. Half an hour later. The 2 leaders of the Saruyama alliance, the Salvage King, Man-Ape, and the Exploration King, Orangutan, were beaten black and blue by the Straw Hat crew, who had been training hard and gaining strength in recent days. There he licked her face, smiled and tried his best to please her. Nami was overjoyed and kept counting the treasures from the shipwreck that had just been salvaged. Although Shakya gave them a lot of treasures, worth at least 10 billion Baileys. But for Nami, who loves money, the more treasures the better. By the way, do you have a record pointer? Straw Hat Luffy obviously didn't plan to do anything to the other party, he just tilted his head and asked, our record pointer seems to be broken. The record pointer is broken. Is it pointing to the sky? The Salvage King and the Exploration King looked at each other. Finally, an expression of I see. Do you know what the reason is? Robin asked in surprise. How should I put it? The Salvage King stroked his chin. Just prepare to put on airs and do something pretentious. Zoro raised his eyebrows. The sharp blade in his hand was pressed directly against his neck without any hesitation. It's not that the record pointer is broken, but all the record pointers passing through this route will gradually point to the sky after leaving Alabasta. The Salvage King shrank his neck. Not daring to keep it a secret any longer, he spoke loudly with sweat all over his forehead. All ships passing through this route will gather at the nearby Gaia Island. There is a town on the island where pirates gather. The Explorer King at the side did not dare to hide anything and added, although there is indeed a legend of Sky Island nearby, and shipwrecks fall from the sky from time to time, but no one believes in the existence of Sky Island. They think that those ships that fall from the sky are just some large tornado that swept them into the sky. Most of the adventurers who arrived here along your route would give up waiting and buy record pointers of other islands in Magic Valley Town, then change the route and continue their adventure. Is that so? Nami, Robin, Zoro, and others suddenly realized. They all looked at the Straw Hat Luffy in the lead, waiting for the captain's decision. Then let's go to that Gaia Island first. Straw Hat Luffy clapped his fist and said with bared teeth. At this time, located in a section of the calm belt between the first half of the Grand Line and South Blue. After transforming into the somersault cloud, the giant panda Beilong still managed to fly at an astonishing speed even with the heavy golden ball. Under Shakya's instructions and following the guidance of a life card, they rested for a night on an island and entered the calm belt directly the next morning. It's calm here. There wasn't even a breeze. But beneath the calm sea surface, unimaginable dangers lurk. Large sea kings of huge size live in this sea area. Any disturbance may lead to an attack by sea kings. Roar! Suddenly, in the distance, water splashed on the sea. A ferocious-looking sea king that was hundreds of meters long jumped up and just emerged from the bottom of the sea to get some air. It has not fallen directly into the sea yet. Clatter! A much larger, hundreds of meters long and extremely ferocious sea king suddenly rushed out, opened its bloody mouth with sharp teeth, and bit the body of the sea king fiercely. No matter how he struggled, he wouldn't let go. The creepy blood dyed the sea red. The 100-meter-long sea king's overhead kept wailing. Soon it lost its breath of life, stopped struggling, and became food for the large sea kings. Calm belt. It's been a long time. Huge clouds appeared across the sky at an astonishing speed. Shakya naturally had no idea about the Straw Hat crew's experience, and even if he knew, he would just laugh it off. Amazon Lily is located deep in the calm belt, where a fighting nation called the Nine Snakes lives. There are no men in the entire country. Even if a woman in this country gets pregnant after going out to sea, the child she gives birth to will only be a girl. Therefore, this place is also known as Daughter Island. It seems that only 1 year has passed for me, but in reality, a full 50 years have passed. It's really strange. Standing on the back of the giant panda white dragon, which used the ability of the copied cloud fruit to transform into a large somersault cloud. Looking at the Nine Snake Island in the distance, Shakya couldn't help but feel a little emotional, but this place is the same as before, there hasn't been much change. Woo woo. The giant panda Beilong responded. It had been here with this owner a long time ago. However, those scantily clad humans are so scary, and I always want to pet cats. Is that a cloud? There's someone up there, a man. Is this the legendary man? Quick, report to Lady Snake that there is an intruder. At this time, Shakya with the arrival of the giant pandas. It soon attracted the attention of many people on Nine Snake Island. Because the giant panda Beilong has become too big because he has to carry that huge golden ball. It's really too eye-catching. Is this true or false? Can clouds carry people flying? Can a creature like a man sit on a cloud? Stupid, that's impossible. Everyone, pay attention, he's an intruder. Don't be careless. Some of them are coolly dressed and look like tough female warriors. They quickly gathered together, looking in shock at the huge cloud that was coming across the sea and getting closer and closer. Except for a small number of Nine Snakes Pirates members who had already gone out to sea, the vast majority of the female warriors could not help but stare with their eyes wide open and their mouths agape. He stared at the excessively large figure, full of surprise and disbelief. But although these female warriors were curious, they did not lose their minds. They all drew their bows and arrows and raised their guns. He aimed at the approaching figure with full vigilance. Brush! Huge clouds, coming closer and closer. Shakya's tall figure leaped down from above and came in front of these female warriors. Bang! A giant golden ball with an exaggerated diameter was thrown aside by the giant panda Beilong, causing the ground to shake and raising a large amount of smoke and dust. Under the incredible gaze of these female warriors, the cloud surged, and its body shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it turned back into its normal panda form. Followed the master. Who are you? How dare you trespass into the Nine Snakes? The leading Nine Snake female warrior Lan, who had short black hair and a hot body, drew a bow and arrow, attached haki, and aimed at the intruder. His eyes were stern and full of fear. Well, don't be nervous, I have no ill intentions. Shakya is smiling. Looking at the Nine Snake female warriors in front of him, he asked directly, where is your previous Emperor Flame Flower? I am here to find her. He found out after coming here. The presence of Flame Flower, Peony, and others was not sensed on this island. This made Shakya feel a little disappointed. It was obvious that the other party did not carry the life card with him. Maybe he had already left it on Nine Snake Island. However, there was a very strong aura that caught his attention. If nothing unexpected happens, it should be the current Queen of the Nine Snakes, Empress Boa. Hancock. Chapter 18. Master Flame Flower. Does this guy know that adult? The previous emperor has been away from Joshi for many years, right? On the coast. I heard that the other party actually threatened to find the previous emperor, Flame Flower. The 9 female snake warriors present were all somewhat surprised and looked at Shakya in astonishment. Obviously, they didn't know the whereabouts of the Flame Flower, and even had the impression that the adult had left for a long time. Who is this guy? As a soldier of the 9 snake pirates, Ran's eyes narrowed. I didn't expect that the other party actually knew the previous emperor of Amazon Lily. You know, even many warriors of the 9 snakes pirates have never heard of that adult. She was full of hostility, staring at the man in front of her, and said coldly, no matter who you are, any man who breaks in here will only die. If you know what's best for you, surrender yourself and you'll suffer less. That won't do. Shakya couldn't help but chuckle. Lan's eyes turned cold, and without further ado, he launched an attack decisively. Call out! There was a loud whistling sound breaking through the air. The arrow wrapped with haki shot out like lightning. And the moment she attacked, other female warriors around her also launched their attacks. Swoosh, swoosh. Arrows, bullets, and shells entangled with haki. They broke through the air one after another and bombarded Shakya in front of them. Squeak. There is no need for Shakya to take action. Giant Panda Beilong shows his teeth. It stood up, with its 2 front paws crossed. A huge barrier that was completely green and looked like colored glass suddenly appeared there, protecting the 2 of them firmly behind them. Boom, boom. A translucent barrier, indestructible. It easily blocked the incoming arrows, bullets, and artillery shells and was completely unshakable. Even if a shell exploded on it, it would cause bursts of fire and thick smoke. There wasn't even a trace left on it. What? How is that possible? That glass-like barrier is surprisingly so strong. Damn, is this a devil fruit ability? Seeing the attack on himself and others, it was easily blocked and could not hurt Shakya or the giant panda at all. The complexion of these 9 snake female warriors changed drastically, and some were terrified. Woo woo. Giant Panda Beilong holds his head high. I waved my claws there, full of pride, as if to say that my barrier is unbreakable. This is the ability that the owner copied from a guy who was dressed strangely and always liked to play the pipa, the paramecia barrier fruit. It has an absolute defense that even the Marine Admiral cannot break through. It's troublesome. Shakya shrugged. The next moment, his eyes suddenly became stern. Buzz! A terrifying wave swept out. All of a sudden, these Amazon Lily female warriors seemed to be hit by some force. Plop, plop. His eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground one after another. In the blink of an eye, all the female warriors present fainted immediately. Even the battle-hardened and powerful warriors of the Nine Snakes Pirates are no exception. It's so shocking and unbelievable. Brush. The giant panda saw this. The barrier was removed. It's not uncommon for these female soldiers to faint. It was obvious that it had witnessed the master's methods more than once. That's this guy. The conqueror's haki like Oni-sama. At this time, from afar, there were exclamations. 3 figures were rushing towards the town quickly. A young female warrior with green hair, a large head and a somewhat weird look, and a young female warrior with long orange hair and a bloated and fat body, both stood there in a daze. Looking at the handsome, tall, mysterious man and the strange giant panda in disbelief. You rude fellow, not only did you trespass into Nine Snake Island, you also dared to cause chaos here. And the leader. She was a tall woman wearing a red and white cheongsam, with long black hair in a G-style and snake-shaped earrings. She was extremely beautiful and had a cold face. A large red and white python followed her, baring its fangs and spitting out its tongue. Swish! Boa Hancock looked directly at Shakya, the intruder who had broken into Amazon Lily without permission, with murderous intent in his eyes. With a push of his feet, the tall figure rushed over like lightning. Perfume femur. Accompanied by the sound of breaking air. The slender, white legs kicked violently. The black high heels wrapped around haki and kicked straight at Shakya's head. Bang! However, a loud noise was heard. Boa Hancock and the 2 girls, Sonia and Marigold, who were watching the game, looked in disbelief. A huge barrier appeared again, firmly blocking the attack. Even the merciless kicks from the Nine Snake Queen were directly blocked. Unable to break through. What? The Empress' pupils shrank sharply. Not willing to be outdone, she wrapped her legs around haki and delivered several consecutive kicks. Bang! Bang! But it only made the barrier make a loud noise, without really shaking it. It's unbelievable. Shave, perfume femur. Boa Hancock stomped his feet hard. All of a sudden, his figure moved as if he teleported and instantly jumped into the air. In an instant, the whole person kicked down from a high position, hitting the unbreakable barrier hard. It was blasted away and the ground rumbled under its pressure. A large cloud of dust was raised. Brush! The graceful, tall figure was knocked back by the shock. With a beautiful backflip, Hancock created some distance and stabilized his body with a stern look in his eyes. He frowned and stared at the mysterious figure in front of him. Boa Hancock is indeed the most beautiful woman in the world. She has good qualifications, but unfortunately her strength is a little lacking. Across the barrier, Shakya acted as if nothing had happened, his face calm. With his arms folded, he looked at the beautiful and graceful current Nine Snake Queen with interest, and said with a smile, Armament haki, there is still room for improvement. Moonwalk, finger pistol, tempest kick, iron body, paper arts. These are 6 superhuman skills circulated within the world government, collectively known as the 6 styles. Shakya was not at all surprised that Hancock mastered the shave, which was only mastered by strong men like Marine and CP. Because, this was what he had specially given to Joshi. He once read the memory of a powerful Marine and obtained the complete 6-style training method. After arriving at Amazon Lily, considering that the ancient haki of the 9 snakes was indeed unique, but lacked some fighting and killing techniques, she directly handed it over to Flame Flower. Let it spread, use it to train those warriors, and improve the overall combat effectiveness of the 9 snakes. When he first came to Amazon Lily, he did find that the overall strength of these female warriors had improved a lot compared to before. It's not that the 6 styles are really that powerful, but it excels in comprehensiveness. After being improved by generations of physical masters, it has become very perfect. Combined with the haki training method passed down from generation to generation by the 9 snakes, they really complement each other. Chapter 19. Hateful. Stop being so arrogant. At this time, Sonia and Marigold ran over. When they heard Shakya talking down to their sister, they all glared at him. This guy is too arrogant. But the opponent's ability is too weird. Even with the strength of their elder sister, she couldn't break it directly. Snaketail. Tempest kick. Line. The two looked at each other. Coincidentally, they used the power of the fruit. The body changed at a speed visible to the naked eye. It turned into a half-human, half-snake monster with a hideous face, 2 hands, and a snake tail in the lower body. One looks like a python and the other looks like a king cobra. They are the users of the python form and the king cobra form of the snake fruit. They had great tacit understanding and rushed out together. 2 huge snake tails swung out like blades. Call out! 2 astonishing light green slashes broke through the air like lightning. And they merged together in an instant, turning into a huge slash that suddenly tore through the atmosphere. It was incredibly fast and hit the green barrier hard. Boom! A loud noise echoed. A wave of air surged up. The extremely fierce slash, which was launched by the 2 of them with the combined power of their fruits, was also unable to shake the barrier in the slightest. This made Sonia and Marigold look unhappy. Ziobai, you don't have to intervene, just stand back and let me do it. Shakya patted the giant panda directly. With the ability to listen to other people's thoughts. He already knew from the thoughts expressed by Sonia, Marigold, and others that the Empress Boa Hancock was the user of the Paramecia sweet fruit. He knew exactly how dangerous the other party's abilities were. Because he had obtained the Paramecia sweet fruit more than 50 years ago. It was also given to Flame Flower for safekeeping. Woo woo. The giant panda got the order. The barrier was removed immediately. The chubby body moved. He ran to a distance and watched from afar. This master often tells himself not to intervene during battles. It has long been accustomed to it. Ignorant man, the guilt of falling for my body will harden your body and mind. Hancock ignored the panda. He looked at Shakya with indifference, and locked onto him with his strong observation haki. Her beautiful and enchanting figure swept across the room, and her every frown and smile exuded amazing charm. She made a heart-shaped gesture, pointing it at the tall figure in front of her without flinching. Instantly, he activated the ability of his Paramecia sweet fruit, infatuated with sweet wind. Brush. All of a sudden. Pink heart-shaped light swept out. In an instant, Shakya, who did not even try to dodge, was completely submerged. However, under the dull gaze of the 3 Hancock sisters, his whole body was shining with strands of golden light, and he was safe and sound. Completely ignoring Hancock's abilities. It was not petrified directly. What? Hancock's pupils shrank sharply, and he was inexplicably shocked. She, who has always been extremely confident in her beauty, stood there in a daze. How could anyone in this world ignore my beauty? How is that possible? Are you kidding? This guy. Witnessing this amazing scene. 2 sisters, Sonia and Marigold. He couldn't help but open his mouth wide, speechless in horror, somewhat unable to believe it. No one knows better than them how destructive power the charm of their elder sister combined with the power of the sweet fruit can have. It can be said that she is invincible. No matter how powerful a man is, or whether he is a man or a woman, old or young, as long as he has the slightest lust for this sister, he will be ruthlessly petrified. But the other party was unexpectedly safe and sound. You are indeed very beautiful, and the ability of the sweet fruit is also very powerful, but you can't rely too much on the ability of the fruit. In a moment, the tall figure suddenly moved. Like a ghost, he instantly appeared in front of Hancock, who was a little dazed and absent-minded because his fruit ability was ineffective for the first time. He lifted her smooth chin slightly and said with a smile, "Little Hancock." In fact, even he couldn't help but be moved by this world's most beautiful woman with amazing charm. But his ability of the mythical beast type, the great Buddha form, can restrain all evil, curses, poisons and the like. The petrification ability of the sweet fruit can be completely ignored. Disrespectful fellow. Stunned Hancock came back to his senses. His face changed, he was shocked and angry, he kicked out without any mercy. Bang! This time, Shakya did not use any fruit ability at all. With his right hand wrapped in the powerful high-level armament haki, he directly caught Hancock's kicking right leg, taking in the beautiful scenery. But Hancock's response was swift. As her graceful body twisted, her left leg kicked out violently. Bang! Bang! Shakya remained calm and easily blocked the opponent's kick. Completely neutralized Hancock's attack. He didn't hold on to the other person's legs tightly, allowing him to break free. Brush! Hancock backed out and put some distance. With a light figure, he stood firmly on the body of his pet python, Samuro. Slave arrow. She looked stern and lightly touched her red lips with her left hand. A peach heart that looks like a balloon appears there. She pulled it like a bowstring. Swoosh, swoosh. A large number of pink arrows entangled Haki. They came through the air one after another. Why bother? Shakya chuckled. He held one palm upright in front of him and chanted the Buddha's name, Namo Shizun Shakya. Swish. The next moment, a golden light shone. A translucent, hemispherical golden barrier appeared there. He firmly blocked the continuously attacking slave arrows, making Hancock's invincible attacks completely ineffective. Boom, boom. See, attack is ineffective. Hancock's pretty face changed color. The opponent's taijutsu and haki are better than mine. For a moment, I was inevitably devastated and felt helpless. Since she became the Emperor of the Nine Snakes, she has never encountered such a situation. My sister's ability is completely ineffective. Damn it, this guy is so powerful. It's not just her. Sonia and Marigold are not far away. Seeing this elder sister being suppressed for the first time, they felt a little flustered and uneasy, and had a strong sense of crisis. But he rushed over without hesitation. To fight alongside my sister. Okay, I'm not here to cause trouble. After testing the strength of the Empress a little, Shakya smiled and removed the barrier. He waved his hand and said directly to the three Hancock sisters who were about to rush over, I have some connection with you, Amazon Lily. I am here to find your previous emperor, Flame Flower. What? Hearing this, the three Hancock sisters were ready to fight to the death, no matter how hard it was. He looked at the other party in shock. He didn't expect that the other party would actually look for Lord Flame Flower, who had already abdicated and left 9 snakes. Master Flame Flower. Staring at the mysterious man in front of him who was extremely handsome and incredibly powerful. Hancock took a deep breath and asked doubtfully, Who are you? What do you want to do with her? You must have seen the Fire Flower, right? I wonder if you have heard of me. Shakya smiled and said, My name is Shakya, from Sky Island. Chapter 20. Shakya. How is that possible? That's not Lady Flame Flowers. The three Gorgon sisters were stunned. Looking at each other in disbelief. Shakya, this name was obviously not unfamiliar to them, and they had been very familiar with it. Because, that was the man that Lady Huoyanhua, the savior of the three sisters, had been tirelessly searching for decades. When they were young, they followed the 9 Snakes pirates to go on an expedition, but were unfortunately kidnapped by human traffickers and sent to a slave auction house in the Sabayati archipelago. Witnessed the ugliness and horror of human hearts. Fortunately, Hancock was so angry that he exploded with Conqueror's haki, which attracted the attention of the former 9 Snake Emperor Flame Flower and the former 9 Snake Emperor Peony, who happened to be living in seclusion in the Sabayati archipelago. The three sisters who had been bought by celestial dragons and were about to be sent to the holy land of Marijoys were secretly rescued by the two and later sent back to Amazon Lily safely. Even Hancock's ability of the Paramecia sweet fruit was given to her by the Flame Flower Lady. The abilities of Sonia and Marigold were snatched from the celestial dragon's ship by Flame Flower when she rescued the three sisters. The experience of almost falling into hell inevitably left some shadows on the three sisters. So Marigold, the third oldest, eats chankonabe every day and trains continuously in order to become stronger. Over time, I became a little bloated and fat. The name of the Gorgon sisters is mainly due to the powerful strength of the three sisters. Moreover, before the abdication of the previous Emperor Toritoma, in order to ensure that Hancock, who had already been chosen as his successor but was too young, could smoothly take over the position of the 9 Snakes Queen, and in order to establish Hancock's prestige, he deliberately spread the news. It seems you have heard of me. Shakya's observation haki, which could listen to other people's thoughts, instantly understood the hearts of the three people. After confirming that Flame Flower and Peony were fine, they were just living in seclusion in the Sabayati archipelago, a place that can be said to be the center of the world where many events take place. He never gave up on finding out his whereabouts. While I was touched, I couldn't help but feel a little relieved. Yes, Flame Flower is my confidant. He shrugged and said with a smile, for some reason, I was trapped in a mysterious sea area. In fact, I only stayed there for a year. I didn't expect that the flow of time there is different from that outside. Decades have passed in the outside world. Is there any place like this? 1 year is equivalent to decades in the outside world. How is this possible? Hear Shakya say this. The three Hancock sisters were stunned. Of course it exists. I wonder if you have heard of the colorful fog near Lolajia Island. Shakya nodded. He did not intend to hide anything and said bluntly, when the colorful fog appears, it will connect to a space called EPS Consid. That sea area is known as the ship graveyard. Any ship that enters has never come out. As a result, countless ships and a large amount of treasure have accumulated there over the long years. Speaking of this, he pointed at the huge golden ball and said to the three Hancock sisters, "Look, these are the treasures I collected from there. I melted the gold together." Hiss, these are all gold. Although this huge golden ball had been discovered before. But just now, facing Shakya, whose origins were mysterious, the three sisters were facing a formidable enemy and had no time to care about so much. At this moment, when they heard that the huge golden ball was actually made of gold, even the three Hancock sisters, who were not greedy for money, couldn't help but gasp and were a little dazed. How many times do the 9 Snakes pirates need to go out and plunder? How can you collect so much treasure? That's how it is, fate plays tricks on us. On the coast. Shakya took some time. The three Hancock sisters were briefly informed of Consid's situation. He sighed lightly and said helplessly, "Not long ago, after a lapse of 50 years, the colorful mist appeared again. I blew it up, thinking I could go back decades, but I failed and stayed in this era." Speaking of this, he shrugged and waved to the giant panda watching the battle from afar. "So, I took my pet and partner, the giant panda white dragon, and followed the Fire Flower's life card to rush over to Amazon Lily. I didn't expect that Flame Flower's life card was not brought with her, but left here. So that's how it is." Hancock suddenly realized. There was not much doubt about Shakya's words. Because she had heard about the deeds of Kesadigarba from Lord Flame Flower and also knew some related information. It seems like the other person really has a giant panda by his side. Especially since this guy is so young, yet he has the power to easily suppress himself, the 7 warlords of the sea, which is consistent with the rumors. At that time, I learned about the other party's legendary deeds and admired him very much. After the 3 sisters were rescued by Flame Flower and Peony, they lived with them in the Sabayati archipelago for a period of time. Gained a deeper understanding of the situation at sea. Naturally, he knew exactly what it meant to offend the world's nobility. But the opponent did not hesitate and killed the celestial dragons directly. He also had a fierce battle with Kong, the admiral of headquarters at that time and now the commander-in-chief of the entire world government army. He defeated the opponent with his powerful strength. If the marine reinforcements had not arrived in time, Kong would have died there and would not have had the chance to climb to his current high position. Now, such a legendary figure suddenly appeared in front of him and others, and he was so young. It made them feel incredible. "Anyway, I'm glad you're all right, Lord Shakya. Know that the other party is not the enemy." Sandersonia heaved a sigh of relief and regained her human form with surprise in her eyes. "That's right." Marigold, who had also regained his human form, looked at Lord Shakya, whom he had only heard of but never met, and said happily, "Lady Flame Flower and the others would be very happy if they knew that you were safe. In fact, it's not just the 3 sisters. Even Lord Torai Toma, who was personally trained by Lord Shayeo and was the previous 9 Snake Emperor, was influenced by him and admired this Kesadigarba Bodhisattva whom he had never met. Many years ago, Lord Torai Toma was too deeply influenced by the previous 2 emperors. He was unwilling to be lonely and gave up the throne of the 9 Snakes Emperor to Boa Hancock early and left Amazon Lily. It is said that she has always wanted to find a perfect man like Kesadigarba. He has also lived in seclusion in the Sabayati archipelago for many years with Hoyanhua, Shayeo, and others, and has been helping to search for the whereabouts of this Kesadigarba. Because the other party's life card was well preserved, Hoyanhua, Shayeo and others have always believed that Shakya is still alive, and have never given up looking for his whereabouts over the years. There was even a suspicion that he was captured by the world government and secretly imprisoned in the world's largest deep-sea prison, Impel Down. Several years ago, Lord Torai Toma used the power of his fruit to disguise himself and sneak in to investigate. But unfortunately, even the 6th underground level, Eternal Hell, is unknown to the outside world. Neither has Shakya's whereabouts been discovered. Chapter 21. Woo Woo. At this time, the giant panda came running over happily. Shakya sat directly on the white dragon, ready to say goodbye and leave. "Well, sorry for disturbing you just now. Since Flame Flower and the others are not here, I won't stay any longer. These treasures are gifts for the 9 snakes. Inside are some priceless gems and antique paintings. You can take them out and have them sent to Sabayati Archipelago for auction. He pointed at the huge golden ball and said nonchalantly. To him, these treasures were completely dispensable possessions. If he had not intended to give them to Flame Flower, he would not have taken the trouble to collect them. It is said to be a dowry given to Flame Flower. In fact, it is compensation for Daughter Island. After all, he directly abducted the queen. Although he had not actually put it into action at first, he left with the Flame Flower. But Shakya had just relied on the special observation haki to roughly understand the situation from the thoughts expressed by the 3 Gorgon sisters. When he was trapped in the colorful fog and saw that he had not returned yet, the 9 Snake Queen, who was deeply in love, was obviously worried. She resigned from the throne in a hurry and ran out to find him. At that time, Shaeyao, the former emperor, was still very young and obviously not qualified to succeed to the throne. It is expected that when Amazon Lily lost its emperor, Flame Flower, it would have inevitably fallen into chaos. These treasures can be considered as compensation to the 9 snakes. Shakya, sir, are you going to Sabayati Archipelago? Looking at the handsome and tall figure in front of me. He stroked the pet snake Samuro that followed him. Boa Hancock, feeling a little disturbed, hesitated for a moment and couldn't help asking. Strictly speaking, the other party's actual age is a few years younger than her, but he is so powerful. This really hit her, as she had always been proud and arrogant. Certainly. Shakya nodded. I felt relieved knowing that Flame Flower and the others were safe. But naturally, he also wanted to see these long-lost confidants as soon as possible. He was just about to have the giant panda switch its ability to the Union Fruit and transform into a somersault cloud and fly away. Glancing at the female warriors who had fainted on the ground, as well as the bows, arrows, guns, and other weapons scattered on the ground, he suddenly thought of something. He could not help but signal Bai Long to stop first, and turned around to ask Hancock and the others, by the way, do you have any discarded guns or other materials here? Come to think of it, I need materials to make a new Zen staff. The battle in EPS Consid was so intense that the previous Zen staff was destroyed. For the giant panda white dragon who has the ability of munch fruit. It does not require any particularly good steel, whether it is ore or waste metal material, it can easily rely on the ability of munch fruit to perfectly synthesize special alloys. Although it will take some time to research the most perfect proportion of shape memory alloy. But fortunately, munch fruit's ability comes in handy. The efficiency should be fast. Scrap metal. The 3 Gorgon sisters heard this. They looked at each other in surprise. Of course, are you sure you want those things? Hancock stared at Shakya, somewhat puzzled. We also have excellent foundries and high-quality steel here. If you want to make a weapon, I can have someone make it for you. That's not necessary. I can't be satisfied with what others have made. Shakya shrugged. To me, refined steel is no different from scrap metal. Moreover, it has some special metal elements that ordinary steel does not have. With the ability of munch fruit. The fine steel that has been carefully tempered is not as efficient as a large amount of metal scraps. Because most of those metal scraps already contain various metal elements. It is easier to synthesize the most ideal shape memory alloy. Then please follow me. Hancock nodded and said no more. Some scrap metal is no problem at all for 9 snakes. Not to mention, this legendary Kesadigarba had just given such a precious gift to the 9 snakes. Wow! Snake Princess is an adult. Sander Sonia adults, Marigold adults. Have the intruders been dealt with? Who is that guy? Is that a giant panda? So cute. What's going on? That's a man. The legendary man. A moment later, 9 Snake City. Many female citizens looked at him in astonishment. After knowing the other party's identity and resolving the misunderstanding, Boa Hancock, the Queen of 9 Snakes, did not insist on the rule that men were forbidden to set foot in 9 Snakes, and brought Shakya into the town. Behind these people followed the Empress's big python, Samuro, and the silly and cute giant panda, Bai Long. It immediately attracted the attention of many citizens, and they gathered together. Some older women who had been out to sea quickly recognized that Shakya was not a woman but a man, and could not help but exclaim in surprise. It caused a huge sensation instantly. Man! Let me see. So this is the man. Isn't it said that men are ugly, disgusting, obscene, mean, shameless and cruel creatures? Yes, it doesn't look like that at all. And why would Lord Hancock allow men into the country? Countless women citizens flocked over. Everyone's eyes lit up as they stared at the handsome and tall figure with amazement. I just find it incredible. Everyone, be quiet. Hancock took a deep breath. Her pretty face was filled with dignity that could not be disobeyed, and she announced loudly, "This is Mr. Shakya. He is different from ordinary men. He is a distinguished guest of the Nine Snakes. He once rescued the Nine Snakes pirates and has a close relationship with successive empresses. He is the benefactor of Amazon Lily, so he is specially allowed to enter this country." Hancock did not lie about this. Because Shakya did save the Nine Snakes pirates from the Marines who were surrounded and in crisis. That's how she met Flame Flower and won the heart of the Nine Snake Queen. Snake Princess is an adult. This is, what a beauty. Yes, it's breathtaking, it's so beautiful. So that's how it is. Is he also Amazon Lily's benefactor? Since Lady Snake has agreed, then there is no problem. Yes, that's right. Looking at Hancock, whose face was cold but beautiful. Countless people were fascinated by her and were deeply attracted by her infinite charm and couldn't extricate themselves. They all seemed to have lost their minds, raising their hands to show their approval and agreeing with each other. No one questioned the Emperor's order at all. Chapter 22. What is that? Oh my God! How is it possible? Lord Shakya, is it really you? What? Lord Shakya? And some older people. He stared blankly at Shakya who was following Hancock, wiping his eyes again and again, somewhat unable to believe it. They dropped what they were doing, ran up tremblingly, and shouted Shakya's name. He looked so excited that the young female warriors were all a little surprised. Well, it's me. Shakya raised an eyebrow. Looking at the wrinkled old woman who was closest to him and was stopped by Sonia, he recognized her and said with a smile, "You are the national warrior who followed Flame Flower. Broccoli, right? Long time no see." There was some sadness in his eyes. "Only a short year has passed for me, but things and people in the outside world have changed. The young and beautiful girl who always liked to pester me and listen to those adventure stories has now become so old. It's really you, that's great." When he saw Shakya, he recognized himself immediately. The white-haired broccoli was very excited and said with tears in his eyes, "When you left and never came back, we thought something happened to you. Master Flame Flower also left Amazon Lily to find your whereabouts. Well, I already know all this. For some reason, I was trapped there, and I was only able to escape recently." With his right hand, Shakya touched the old woman's white-haired head just like he did before he left Amazon Lily. He said with some emotion, "I'm so sorry for making you worry. Lord Shakya, do you remember me? I am the national warrior Morning Glory. And I once sewed clothes for you, Shakya sir. Even that panda is the same as before. It's incredible. You are still exactly the same as you were 50 years ago. There is no change at all. I am Rose, a cotter of the Nine Snakes pirates. Little White Dragon, do you still remember me? Woo, woo, I'm so glad you're okay." Under the stunned gaze of those young female warriors, a group of white-haired old women, mostly in their 60s and 70s, and some even in their 70s and 80s, half buried in the ground, were all extremely excited and almost pushed all of them aside. Some people even burst into tears, crying with joy and shouting loudly to Shakya Lord. It turns out that they all knew the young, tall, handsome man who looked only in his 20s, and the silly and cute giant panda. And from what they said, the other party had actually been to Amazon Lily 50 years ago. And she was the lover of the previous emperor, Lord Flame Flower? This made them a little unbelievable. Mr. Shakya, was it so popular in the past? Not to mention the young citizens. Even the two sisters, Sonia and Marigold, were stunned. They didn't expect Shakya to be so popular here. "Master Shakya, do you remember? I am Chu Mudan, the youngest among the national defenders. You once personally demonstrated and taught me a set of massage techniques specifically for breast enhancement, which is indeed very effective." I don't know who shouted. Shakya felt ashamed and his face turned red. Hancock and her two sisters couldn't help but look at Shakya with strange eyes. Suddenly I felt like a certain filter was shattered to the ground. This Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva seems a little bit unserious. Ahem. Shakya coughed dryly. Facing the strange looks from the three sisters, he couldn't help but touch his nose, chuckled and said, I know a little bit about medicine. When I saw Chu Mutin was in this trouble, I couldn't bear her nagging, so I gave her some advice. It really wasn't him who messed around in the first place. It's just that the female warriors of Amazon Lily are too enthusiastic. Because the 9 snakes are isolated from the outside world all year round, men are strictly prohibited from entering. Some female warriors grew up on the daughter island and have never seen a man in their entire lives. The mutual attraction between men and women makes it normal for these female soldiers to uncontrollably surround him every day. A group of young, beautiful, coolly dressed, bold and wild girls who were ignorant of the world, had nothing to do all day and surrounded him every few days, behaving intimately and without any reservations. He even felt that he was truly a sage. During the few months he stayed on the daughter island, he developed an unspeakable relationship with Flame Flower, the passionate and tender queen of 9 snakes. He only flirts with other female warriors a little bit from time to time. Moreover, because Amazon Lily is located in the Calm Belt, it is isolated from the outside world all year round and its medical skills are backward. He was devoted to Buddhism, and the reason he traveled at sea was to do good deeds every day and emulate his ancestors in saving all living beings. We should accumulate virtue and do good deeds, save the world with medicine, and undress for those female donors who are suffering from pain and hardship but are afraid to seek medical treatment and have no other connections. Oh no, it is our duty to help them solve their problems. It just so happened that he, the Grand Master of Medicine, came to the 9 snakes. And with the relationship with the Flame Flower, of course he will not be stingy in curing diseases and saving lives. In this situation, we certainly cannot keep people away just because of the differences between men and women. In just a few months, Shakya has treated many female soldiers, solving the hidden illnesses that have plagued them for a long time, and has also pulled some female soldiers who were on the verge of death back from the brink of death. There were also some female soldiers whose wounds had rotted and festered, and some even had to have their limbs amputated. They were cured by him and their limbs were saved. A large number of citizens were moved to tears of gratitude. Naturally, it became a friend of women. He even generously passed on the medical skills of the Flower Kingdom to the ship doctor of the 9 snake pirates. Her popularity was almost surpassing that of Flame Flower, who was the queen of 9 snakes at the time. This is also the reason why these older citizens were so excited when they recognized his identity. The 3 Gorgon sisters. They were naturally aware of the other party's deeds of curing diseases and saving lives. However, even such unorthodox massage techniques were demonstrated and taught personally. The 3 sisters simply couldn't believe that the other party was a serious person. Is that so? Mr. Shakya. Hancock blinked. She looks charming and alluring. The almond-shaped eyes, like gemstones, stared at the handsome and tall man. That cool, gorgeous face had a hint of playfulness. Do you think I believe it? Chapter 23. Okay, no more jokes, you don't have to be so surprised. Facing the strange looks from the 3 Hancock sisters, Shakya was not embarrassed and smiled slightly. He was very frank and did not hide anything. He smiled and said, money, power, beauty, strength, fame and fortune. In life, there are always some pursuits. No one can avoid it, and I am no exception. You don't have to imagine me to be so perfect. I can't be as righteous and majestic as the real Buddha. I come from the West Blue Flower Country. I used to be a member of the royal family and the first heir to the throne. Later, I got tired of fighting for power and lost interest in it. I voluntarily gave up the throne and left the country. Talk about the past. Shakya's face was calm and unperturbed. Facing the surprised looks of the 3 Hancock sisters, he said frankly and with a smile, power, money, fame, and fortune are like dirt to me. I don't have much to pursue in this life. The reason why I keep practicing is that I hope to be able to step onto the top of the real strong one day, that is, to do whatever I want, live freely and unrestrainedly, and have several beautiful women every day. If the goal of those pirates is to become the king of pirates, then my goal is to become the king of harem. Shakya looked calm. I don't think there's anything I can't express about my dream. Hearing this, the 3 Hancock sisters were speechless. For a moment, I felt that the perfect image of Ksatagarbha in my heart seemed to have undergone some changes invisibly. But they did not feel any ill will, they were just a little surprised to find that Mr. Shakya seemed different from what they had imagined. The other party is not a Buddha with a perfect image and who is detached from the world, but a person, a living mortal. It makes people feel closer. Mr. Shakya, are you such a person? You really know how to joke. No wonder you are called the broken monk. Sander Sonia and Marigold were both stunned. The two of them were speechless and couldn't help but chuckle. It was the first time they met such a frank man. Having been influenced by each other and heard about each other's legendary deeds since childhood, the three sisters think that the image of Shakya, the Ksatagarbha, is too majestic and perfect. Even when standing in front of me, I always felt like there was something between me and him, which made me feel a little stiff and distant. Now Shakya is like a young, suave, and lively person. You are so frank. Hancock looked at the other person speechlessly. However, the corners of her rosy and attractive lips couldn't help but slightly rise. She had just suffered a great blow and had some doubts about her beauty and charm, but now she finally felt relieved. As expected, no one can resist the charm of the world's most beautiful woman. The reason why the opponent was not petrified just now was most likely because of the special ability of the fruit. Although it was a bit hot, it was mostly admiration, and there was no such obscene gaze. Hancock's calm heart actually felt a little fluttery. She turned her head away unnaturally and snorted softly, "Men, they are all the same. Miss Flameflower is right. 99% of men will not behave themselves as long as they are not hung on the wall." These were the words that Lady Flameflower once said to her. Hancock deeply agreed. "Don't say that." Shakya chuckled. He made no secret of his inner thoughts. He looked at the gorgeous Boa Hancock with a smile, his eyes full of admiration. Desire is human nature. I just liberate my nature and won't deliberately suppress it. Especially, if the world's most beautiful woman like you, Hancock, is willing to throw herself into my arms, I don't mind opening my arms to you. No taboos, is this you? Hear the other person express his or her thoughts about you without any reservation. Hancock raised his eyebrows and looked at the person in front of him, his sapphire eyes full of surprise. This extremely young Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva is really very different from the rumors and is completely different from the perfect and majestic image that one has imagined. And surprisingly, instead of showing any disgust or rejection as she usually did towards other men, she felt a hint of pleasure as if a woman dresses up to please herself. However, thinking back to the time when he was on the coast, not only was he easily suppressed by this guy, but he was also teased by him. He even openly scolded him, the 7 warlords of the sea, for over-reliance on the power of the fruit. For a moment, the somewhat unhappy Empress glared at the other party, unwilling to be outdone. Her eyes were full of provocation, and she said unhappily, "How dare you say that in front of Master Huayanhua?" Over the years, she has met countless men of all kinds. Most of those men were fascinated by her beauty, especially those who appeared to be gentlemen on the surface but were dirty and vile at heart. There were countless of them. Although the other party was a bit lustful, he did not hide his thoughts at all. But he is very frank and not as annoying as you might imagine. Instead, I developed a lot of good feelings for him and couldn't help but feel close to him. Don't get me wrong, Flame Flower has long known my true nature, and is well aware that I have many female confidants. Shakya didn't care. He shrugged and said with a smile, "You don't have to imagine me to be too perfect. Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva is just a flattery of the world. I am just an ordinary person and cannot become a Buddha, so I became a monk who broke his vows." In fact, he has always been a rather selfish and bohemian person, not as perfect as others imagine. He is also very fickle. Not only Amazon Lily, but even Elbaf's giant tribe has his confidants. Of course, although he is a bit of a scumbag, he still firmly believes that love grows over time. Therefore, every woman poured her sincere feelings into the man and never had the idea of abandoning him. He is indeed not that great, and he does not have the broad mind to help the world when he is successful. He even attacked the Marine fleet to liberate the slaves of countries that were not members of the world government, and later attacked the celestial dragons to rescue the prince of that country that was not members of the world government. It's not because of pure chastity. It's all because the Flower Kingdom had a marriage alliance with that kingdom. He was married to North Blue when he was born. He had met her several times when he was young. His aunt, with whom he had a good relationship, was the queen of that country. The prince of the country is his aunt's son, which means he is his cousin. Unfortunately, after the country was conquered, the queen and king committed suicide by taking poison in order to avoid being humiliated. His cousin, the heir to the throne, and other members of the royal family were taken to the holy land of Marie-Joyce and became slaves of the celestial dragons. At that time, Shakya, who was traveling in East Blue, heard the bad news. Considering that the ant treated him well and entertained him when he traveled in North Blue, he rescued the man. It's just that he had already abandoned everything in the past and left the royal family of the Kingdom of Flowers. Later, he went out to sea and traveled around the world under the guise of a monk who had broken his vows. Shakya is strictly speaking his Dharma name, not his original name. The outside world simply doesn't know the specific reason. Under the majesty of Queen Hancock. After repeated scolding, those enthusiastic citizens finally retreated. At the same time, arrange people to wake up those female warriors who were previously stunned and unconscious by Shakya's conquerors Haki, and bring back those who cannot be awakened for the time being. Soon he brought Shakya to an inconspicuous corner of the town. Shakya, this is the scrap metal recycling area. In front of an area filled with various recyclable waste metal materials. Hancock pointed to the piles of rusted, broken, and irreparable guns and other metal scraps, and asked, "These are all scraps that have been collected and are ready to be recast. Are you sure you can use them directly to forge weapons? Do you want me to send some high-quality steel over?" After the recent episode, the few of them became much more familiar with each other. Since Shakya's actual age was not as old as imagined, but younger than himself, Hancock was no longer as reserved as before. At Shakya's request, he didn't bother to be polite and just called him by his name. "No, these are enough." Shakya waved his hand and pointed directly at the giant panda Beilong. "Ziobai, I leave it to you. Use the ability of the munch fruit to first try to synthesize new metals from some metal scraps, and then slowly adjust the ratio of the various metal elements." Woo-woo. Immediately following. In the astonished eyes of Hancock and others, the white dragon bared its teeth, roared, and ran forward. Crunch, crunch. After switching to the ability of munch fruit, it opened its mouth wide and swallowed a large amount of scattered metal waste. In the blink of an eye, its mouth expanded continuously, biting the several meter-long, rusty, and cracked gun barrel into pieces and swallowed it. Chapter 24. This is Devil Fruit Ability. It actually swallowed all this metal. Looking at the giant panda Beilong, whose teeth were so sharp that they could easily tear apart a gun barrel, and which swallowed up all kinds of metal scraps in the blink of an eye as if nothing had happened. The three Hancock sisters were surprised. Don't be surprised. This is the ability of the munch fruit. Shakya crossed his arms and smiled as he introduced, "You can eat anything and turn it into a part of your body, or synthesize something new." Haku is the user of the Paramecia copy fruit, which allows him to copy the abilities of different devil fruits. Copy the fruit. It's really amazing. No wonder it can use different abilities. Hancock, Sandersonia, and Marigold were amazed. Looking at the giant panda Beilong with full of surprise, it was a bit unbelievable. It is really exaggerated that a giant panda possesses such amazing devil fruit abilities. Squeak. Beilong held his head high, waving his paws, full of pride. "Okay, you're the best, get to work." Shakya patted its head in annoyance. Bang, bang, bang. Under the astonished gaze of the three Hancock sisters, all of a sudden, the giant panda opened its mouth. It spat out a large amount of shiny metal blocks, as if they had just been smelted in a factory, and piled them in front of the few people. Shakya squatted down. "Grab this piece the size of a human head." But to him, it was just a piece of metal the size of a palm, which he could squeeze hard. Gaga. A teeth-grinding sound was heard. Even if he restrained his strength, he made sure not to directly damage the alloy. But it was still deformed by being squeezed, and fingerprints were clearly visible on it. However, in the blink of an eye, it slowly recovered. It is indeed a rare morphological memory metal, but the proportion needs to be adjusted and the hardness needs to be improved. Shakya said with his eyes lighting up. Woo-woo. At this time, the white dragon directly spit out a Gatling machine gun that was silver-white in color, with perfect lines and shining metallic luster. Even an ammunition chain is equipped on it. Is this kind of thing even possible? Sandersonia was a little dazed. It's not just a useless model, it's actually a real machine gun that can be used directly. Marigold picked up the Gatling gun and examined it carefully. I found out that this was a real machine gun, and the quality was incredibly good. Far surpassed the guns and cannons they looted from foreign ships or produced by the people themselves. Day. She was carrying a Gatling gun. Aim at the distance and pull the trigger. Swoosh, swoosh. The fire is shining. Dense bullets poured out, accompanied by loud clanging noises and sparks. On the mountain of scrap metal, there were many shocking large holes. Even the thick gun barrel was pierced through. The power is far greater than that of ordinary guns. It makes my scalp tingle. You created a weapon all at once. Even Hancock was surprised. Her jewel-like eyes were filled with surprise. Haku has copied the power of the weapon fruit before. I taught it the appearance and specific structure of various advanced thermal weapons. So it can use the power of the munch fruit to directly create a weapon like the Gatling gun that has a precise structure and great power. Shakya wasn't that surprised. After letting the giant panda white dragon copy the ability of the weapon fruit, in order to enable it to fully unleash the power of the weapon fruit, he spent a lot of time and effort. Under his instruction, Bai Long already knew the structure of these firearms very well, so it was not surprising that he could easily create them with the power of the munch fruit. In the next few days, from the metal scrap area, there were bursts of muffled clanging sounds. Shakya was busy here experimenting with new proportions of shape memory alloys in order to create the most ideal and perfect Zen staff, and he almost never left. He used the ability of the munch fruit copied from the giant panda Bai Long to build a simple laboratory. A series of experiments were made, using various proportions of morphological memory alloys as materials to create a number of guns, cannons, swords, and other weapons. Although Joshi is a country, there are not as many trivial matters as imagined, and there are other cadres and officials to handle them. Therefore, Empress Hancock was relatively relaxed when she did not need to go on an expedition. Every day, the three Hancock sisters personally brought meals to visit Shakya, who was devoted to his research. Of course, even if they didn't send food over, those enthusiastic citizens would take the initiative to send it over. Although most of the female warriors Shakya knew at the beginning were old, the vast majority of them were still in good shape and were not unable to cook or walk. On the first day, the food blocked the gate to the area. As Hancock strictly prohibited any disturbance, the elderly female soldiers stopped delivering meals. With the help of the power of munch fruit, many complicated processes of normal casting and forging can be simplified or even omitted. The quality of weapons created through the munch fruit ability is in no way inferior to those weapons that have been tempered 1,000 times, and may even be better. This made Shakya feel a lot more relaxed. Moreover, over time, through the continuous adjustment of the synthetic ratio of metal elements in the shape memory alloy, the hardness has become higher and higher, approaching a satisfactory level. Inside a simple laboratory, those dazzling and powerful new weapons were placed there casually. Although it was just an experimental product, the three Hancock sisters who often came to watch were still dumbfounded and could not help but marvel at it. This Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva is indeed an omnipotent super genius as rumored. Technology, medicine, casting, etc., he knows almost everything, and it is not just a simple dabbling, but a grand master in everything, with extremely high attainments. It's really unbelievable. It's admirable. Mr. Shakya, you are really amazing. The two sisters, Sandersonia and Marigold, were even more astounded by Shakya's beauty. They turned into fans and were completely mesmerized by Shakya's displayed talents. They were full of admiration and regarded him as an idol. It was Hancock, although not as exaggerated as his two sisters, who was captured directly. But every time I came to visit him, looking at the handsome Shakya who was concentrating on his research, there was a little more brilliance in my eyes unconsciously. This empress has always been arrogant and extremely confident in her beauty. For the first time, I discovered that the word charm is not only used by women. Such a perfect man exudes charm invisibly. It is indeed difficult for ordinary women to resist. Chapter 25. Well, it has finally reached the ideal hardness and toughness. In the blink of an eye. 5 days had passed since Shakya arrived at Amazon Lily. On this day, in a corner of Joshi City, in a simple container-style building made entirely of steel plates, which is completely different from the classical architectural style. As a temporary laboratory, this place is not particularly large, only about 100 square meters. Various weapons and alloy steel plates were piled there, looking a bit messy. Shakya smiled as he watched the giant panda Bai Long adjust the proportions of various metal elements countless times and conduct continuous experiments to finally synthesize a new type of alloy. He was sure that this was the most perfect morphological memory alloy. Both toughness and hardness have been enhanced to ultimate, reaching the most ideal state. It is the best material for making combat uniforms and weapons. This is it. I've asked around, that gentleman has been staying here these days. At this time, outside the laboratory, several female warriors in cool clothes and of different shapes were looking around and approaching here cautiously. Hey, should we not disturb this gentleman? A tall, pretty and heroic woman with slender phoenix eyes, a high ponytail and wild clothes said hesitantly in a low voice. That day, after these national defenders and soldiers from the Nine Snakes pirates woke up one after another, they were told the identity of the invader and were all shocked speechless. No one would have thought that the man who suddenly came to Amazon Lily was actually the legendary Garba. No wonder he is so incredibly strong and can easily block all their attacks. Even a single glance could easily knock these battle-hardened female warriors unconscious. I always felt that the other party was not so easy to talk to, so I suddenly hesitated to go to the other party to ask for help, and I began to want to back out. How can that be possible? A young, beautiful girl with a good figure, wearing a hat with the Nine Snakes logo, with big dark brown eyes and long orange-brown hair, pulled the other party and said, "Big Sister Kikyo, we are all here for you." Yes, Aflandra is right. A sexy girl with short blonde hair, wearing a leopard print swimsuit and a black and green striped snake wrapped around her neck, gently advised, "Don't forget, every time you have your period, it hurts like hell." Yes, I have asked Dr. Belladonna about this. It is said that she is an excellent doctor, especially good at treating difficult and complicated gynecological diseases. She can definitely solve your problem. As one of the national defenders, the tall and fat Stoby said seriously. And inside the laboratory, Shakya was just about to take a break and go out for some fresh air when he suddenly felt something. He raised his eyebrows, quickly taking in the thoughts of the people outside and understanding the whole cause and effect. He couldn't help but chuckle and walked out of the laboratory. Click! The door suddenly opened. This scared several female soldiers who were just about to muster up the courage to knock on the door. Looking at the four young female warriors with different body shapes, dressed coolly and wildly, hiding at the door and looking around, he recognized the four men at a glance. They were the warriors of the Nine Snakes generation. He smiled and asked, "What are you guys doing here?" Shakya adult. The four female warriors, Kikyo, Stoby, Margaret and Everlandra, became nervous. "It's okay, I'm so sorry to bother you." Facing Lord Shakya, who is full of legends and mysteries, Kikyo, who was a little nervous, bowed deeply and was about to pull the others away. "Wait, Lord Shakya, it's like this." Margaret hurriedly pulled Kikyo and said loudly, "We have something to ask of you." "Well, I know a little bit about medicine, and I can tell that you three are in good health." Shakya smiled at the wildly dressed and heroic high ponytailed beauty. "Your name is Kikyo, right? Do you usually have menstrual cramps?" "Hey!" Upon hearing this, several national defense soldiers were all stunned. Unexpectedly, the other party saw through Kikyo's old problem at a glance. Even Kikyo herself couldn't help but widen her eyes and stare at the handsome and tall Lord Shakya in astonishment, somewhat unable to believe it. "You are truly amazing, Lord Shakya." Aflandra's eyes sparkled as he looked at the adult with admiration, nodding repeatedly, "Yes, that's why we came here. Every time Captain Kikyo's Tiangi comes, the pain is unbearable. This problem has tormented her for many years." Margaret nodded seriously and continued, "The doctor on the island also prescribed medicine and asked her to boil brown sugar water to drink, but although it relieved the symptoms, the effect was not very good and it could not be cured. It is said that even Lord Hancock has this problem, and he usually just toughs it out." "Okay, I understand." Shakya was not surprised. In fact, when he first saw Hancock, the Nine Snake Emperor, he already knew that the other party had this problem. "I had originally thought about helping the other party solve this problem before leaving." Unexpectedly, these patriotic warriors came to the door on their own initiative. "Kikyo, stay here first. I'll check her out in detail." He simply took out the banknotes and wrote on them. He listed 20 or 30 kinds of medicinal herbs and handed them directly to Stoby and the others. "You guys go and collect these herbs according to this prescription and bring them back tonight." "Yes. Thank you so much, Lord Shakya." Stoby, Margaret and Everandra were overjoyed. At the same time, they were all full of curiosity, looking at this adult. Even Kikyo, the captain of the National Defense Warriors, was no exception. He did not expect the other party to be so easy to talk to. "Is this the legendary man? It's not as ugly, cruel and violent as I imagined." Lord Shakya, I'll leave the Platy Codon in your care. Margaret and others left reluctantly with the prescription, leaving behind Kikyo at a loss. Don't be nervous, just follow me in. Shakya held out his big hand. He stroked the other's pretty face and said with a smile. Yes, Lord Shakya. Kikyo looked at the handsome face of this Shakya-sama. My heart, which was originally somewhat nervous and apprehensive, suddenly became inexplicably calm and peaceful, and I felt indescribably at ease. I just felt that its image was extremely tall and majestic. Sure enough, this Lord Ksadigarba is just as the legends say, a savior-like existence. She was too narrow-minded before and actually misunderstood this adult. For a moment, Kikyo's heart was filled with self-blame. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.